Oh, wait, there it is.
We're good.
We're green. Green means
We're
go.
good, we're good.
Okay, make a motion to open the meeting. Is there a second?
A second?
Roll call, please.
Trustee Marshall?
Aye.
Trustee Coe?
Aye.
Trustee Lightgift?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Aye.
Motion passes, thank you.
Okay, and before we begin, I'd like to welcome another new trustee to the board, Trustee Coe. This is her first meeting. so
Thank you so much. So happy to be
Welcome
here.
aboard.
Thanks.
Okay. Does any of the board members have a conflict of interest or anything to disclose regarding the items before you this evening?
I just wanted to mention a possible conflict of interest. I did speak with our attorney related to the organizational meeting and appointments to the ethics board. Since some of us may be subject to an investigation, I feel I should recuse myself from that.
Yeah, I think we all are, and I withdrew it for now.
Oh, great, thank you.
Yeah, we
apologize
just,
for-
no, but no, all good, all good. Yeah, anybody else? We're all set?
I have none.
Please confirm, no, and no for me. Okay, would the village clerk please read the open meeting compliance certification?
Settle in, this will be the short part of your night. The public will have opportunities to comment on specific agenda items when they occur in the meeting and also on general matters at the end of the meeting. Speakers can comment once in each comment window if it is on a specific agenda item. It is not a debate, a deposition, or a panel discussion. Speakers must step to the front of the room if physically able. Alternatively, they may provide comments from where they are seated. If an attendee is participating via web conference technology such as Zoom, the clerk will announce how attendees should signal that they wish to comment. This may differ by platform, but is typically accomplished through the raised hand feature. We are using Zoom, so if you're joining us via Zoom, please raise your hand if you wish to speak or put it in the Q&A and I will ask the question for you. If you put it in the chat box, I don't read chat. Okay. Speakers must give their name, address, and organization. There shall be an exemption for any category of people protected by New York State law. I request that the Zoom attendees as well, please give me your name and address. I do sometimes recognize the name. I don't always remember where you live. That's probably a good thing. Okay, speakers must be recognized by the presiding officer. Speakers must limit their remarks to 3 minutes on any given topic. Speakers may not yield any remaining time they may have to another speaker. Board members may, with the permission of the mayor, only interrupt a speaker during their remarks for the purpose of clarification or information. Speakers must observe the commonly accepted rules of courtesy, decorum, dignity, and good taste. Interested parties or their representatives may address the board by written communications to the village clerk at villageofpittsburgh.com. All written communications will become part of the public record and will be attached to the minutes for that meeting. At the sender's request, written communications will be read aloud by the clerk at the meeting and will adhere to the 3-minute time limit. If printed materials or other media are provided by attendees during the meeting, they must be submitted to the village board with optional distribution to audience members. All materials will be part of the public record. Private distribution of materials to audience members only is prohibited.
Okay, thank you. I know after you read it, I feel like saying there's going to be a pop quiz on that. Could everybody please silence any cell phones that you have, just as a heads up to folks? Thank you. Okay, let's begin. We are starting tonight with non-municipal permits. The first one up is Pittsburgh Community, the Pride Parade. Want to come up? Yeah, come on up. Hi, Annalise. Hi, Therese. How are you? Please. Or stand, either way, whatever works for you.
So we are planning the 3rd annual Pride Parade. Same thing as last year, we use the same language and everything, and we attached our insurance waiver this time. We will only close the roads if the police agree to that, so that part will happen only if they're agreeing to it. It has happened the past 2 years, but we'll work with them and notify all the necessary people.
You know, typically it's been down the sidewalks, right?
So,
I'm trying to remember.
the past 2 years, they've closed the street for us.
Oh, they did, you're right. I take that back. Yeah,
So,
you're right.
We plan for the sidewalks, but we
It
take the
gets a
street if
little-
they let us.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not that long, okay.
So it's going to be on the street then?
If they allow it, if the police have the time and the support, we'll do that, but otherwise, we'll do the sidewalks.
And what's the route?
I
It's right here in
I
the,
attached it to the
Yeah.
packet.
yep,
We'll start at the 35 Lincoln and turn left on Main, and we end at
Yeah, Carpenter Park. Yep. Yeah, same route. Yeah, and you coordinate always with the sheriff's department. Yeah,
We
you get a nice turnout as well.
And it starts at 2.
Yeah, and the parade itself doesn't last that long. I mean,
It's, half a mile, so 10
Yeah.
minutes.
yeah, maybe 15 minutes, something like that. Any other questions from the board?
Just
Yeah,
really
sure.
quickly, so I understand this is essentially the same as the past couple of years. And I think I mentioned last year too, that a couple of the venues involved were the rec center and the pavilion is not a village property. So I assume you've gone through the other channels for approvals for those.
We've reserved the space at the rec center, the pavilion. We'll notify them that we're meeting on their property when it's time.
Sure.
But
That's fine. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that it was known that we're not the jurisdiction, we're not the authority for approval of that regardless. But I'm okay with the way that it's been handled in the past. And I haven't received any complaints, Dorothea, anything that's come in. Great, thank you. Oh, should we,
Okay, is there a motion?
I just have
Oh,
one.
do you have a comment?
Yeah, I
Sure.
just have a question. So specific to the agenda, both the publicly posted agenda and the agenda that I recently received an email, it's only the first page. It doesn't include the C attached map for the route. Is there a reason for that? Not that I have a challenge with it.
Insane clerk.
Okay.
Overworked clerk,
You know,
I think
when
is
you
really.
merge the PDFs and when you keep changing them, things disappear. I think it's Adobe getting back at me.
So the route would be, you start in front of the Spiegel Center, you walk down Lincoln Avenue and turn left onto South Main Street and proceed down to Carpenter Park and turn right.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Motion to approve?
Okay, there's a motion? Yep.
I'll ask
Yes.
for a 45-day waiver.
Yes,
I think
please.
it's close, but I
It's
really.
close, but let's just do it, yeah.
So a motion to approve with the granting of the 45-day waiver.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Lightkit,
Aye.
trustee Marshall,
Aye.
trustee Coe,
Aye.
Mayor Plummer,
Hi.
motion passes.
Thank you.
And thanks for organizing it. Thanks so much. Okay, next up on the agenda this evening, we have a special, a non-municipal use permit for Copperleaf Brewing. It's the Creators Fest. Is there anyone here on behalf of, they must be brewing, I guess.
He knew about it, but
Okay,
So it looks like they're looking to do the same thing they did recently with
Yeah.
their anniversary party. So I'm
they're
just-
piggybacking off of the approved festivals that are, festivities that are going on down on June 24th.
yeah,
They will still need something from SLA in order to, operate a little bit outside.
need from what?
To operate outside, they want to put a tent up and operate in a couple parking spaces on the side of the building.
Is that what you referenced by the roped off area?
Yeah, is that what you're saying, the roped off area?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the roped off area is 3 or 4 parking spaces worth?
Well, the roped off area is already, they use the roped off area now for the tables, but they
Yeah.
also want to set a little tent on the, I guess it would be the north side of the building, on a couple of those parking spots.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Only in the parking spots?
Yeah, they want to utilize 2 of the parking spots, put a small, like, easy out type thing and serve out there, but they need approval from the SLA in order to do that also.
From from,
State Liquor
State
Authority.
Liquor
oh,
Authority.
thank you, okay. More acronyms, okay. And then, has the landlord, has the landlord signed off?
Pardon?
Have we heard from the landlord?
No, Charlie?
Yeah,
No, I haven't heard from him. I would assume, but I don't know that they would talk to Charlie.
well, because they're taking parking, unless the parking, I'm just thinking it's parking spots that are being taken up.
It's that festival, it's a festival.
Yeah, that's true, they already have
Yeah,
approval
that's-
for the entire festival. All right, I see where you're going with that. Still would reach out to him.
We make it contingent upon notification. of-
Yeah, I would know, Charlie knows about the festival, though. You're right, it's all the shop owners, it's gonna be a big thing, so,
Out for the whole day.
I know that Mr. Fox knows about that.
Do we have the time for the festival, when it's going to be, from what to what? I don't see it on here. Do you know? Is it like at 10 a.m., is it noon, does anybody know, is it starting?
Yeah, we approved the festival, I can't remember the times. It's
Yeah, it's not all day. I mean,
No, it
it's
isn't
only-
all day.
It's only like 4 or 5 hours.
Like 12 to 5 or something like that?
Yeah,
Yeah, I can't
And
remember.
their operation would coincide with the pre-approved festival.
right.
Okay, so it wouldn't extend beyond that.
No, I don't think so.
Fire marshal have any concerns?
Or,
Does the fire marshal have any concerns?
no, sir,
Yeah, there's still egress if they're just using the parking spots.
no.
Okay. Okay.
I don't have any concerns.
Any other thoughts or comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second?
Roll call.
Trustee Coe,
Hi.
trustee Marshall,
Aye.
trustee Lightgev,
Aye.
Mayor Plummer,
Aye.
motion passes.
Okay. Next up, a special permit application for Label 7. Oh, you put lot 32. Oh.
I must really want to go to Walk 32.
Oh,
I know it's
don't say that to
Label
Copperleaf or Label 7.
I apologize to all parties, I'll lose it everywhere.
Okay.
Looks like Mr. Mueller is not
Yeah.
here. This would be a special permit application, so it would need a public hearing at the Board of Code.
Yeah, this is just to have acoustic music, I think it's for a few hours.
Yeah, I was going to
For
say.
2 hours.
is
So
it just-
Label 7's current special use permit doesn't include outdoor music venues. Is that why they have to come before us for this
Yeah.
every time?
Yeah.
So it's on May 1st? Is that right?
right?
Acoustic music at patio 5-1 till, so is he thinking all summer?
Yes.
Okay, all summer, and then-
So it's 2 hours.
Where is the 2 hours? Am I missing that?
But my understanding is that would this be a permanent thing that would alter the
Oh, 2 hours tops.
the ability
Okay,
to use the property for all summer months, or is this just this summer?
I'm not kind of sure the legality, I don't know whether you could say it is a season, you know what I mean, to see how it goes, and then that would have to be renewed as long as there weren't any issues.
I think that's a good idea.
Board's
Yeah,
discretion.
just do it for the
Yeah, we'll just do it for
season.
the season, then we could,
Yeah,
they want
and
to
I think you
come
just put till the weather changes for them, when they can't use the patio.
So the most we
Yeah,
can,
You could put a time limit on it.
so the most we can do today is to submit it for a public hearing, correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
we would set the date, yeah.
You can get all that straightened out.
Yeah, we can sort it.
Thinking for the hearing.
Yeah, Steve, maybe we can get back to him with some of this stuff. And then, yeah, do we have any dates that we could look at?
Well, we let him know we can't accommodate May 1st, because the first date available would be
May 11th for the public hearing,
Oh,
because it has to go to the paper.
Oh, wow,
Special permit's different than the,
yeah,
And then the residents local to Label 7 would be notified within how far distance? Is there anything that has to be done?
We don't notify for special permit, it's only planning. and
it's in the paper, we
Okay.
yeah, it goes through the paper and everything, and it's
Okay.
posted, yeah. Okay, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to submit this for public hearing on May 11th at 7 PM.
do
Is
we
that
need,
sufficient?
do we need to say anything in the motion about from when to when, it's only to 2023, or? we
no,
can-
that's all.
It's
handed
just
in.
handled at the hearing, it's just setting our date, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I think there'll be multiple questions answered by then, I hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, he needs to give us all of what he's going to do.
Ross should be here to present.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a motion before us, is there a second, please?
a second?
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Lightgev,
Aye.
trustee Coe,
Aye.
trustee Marshall, Mayor Plummer,
Aye.
motion passes.
Okay, we have a date. I'm going to skip down just because of the time, and why don't we skip down to proclamations? Arbor Day. And this is because we are a tree city, and so every year for Arbor Day, as a tree municipality or tree city, we issue a proclamation in support of the attributes of Arbor Day and why we support it and support trees. Any questions on the proclamation? Pretty straightforward. We like trees.
I think we've done this in the past.
Yeah, we have.
We
We do it every
every, we need to do it every year to keep our tree city.
Yeah, it's to keep our certification to be a tree city, so. Yep. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second, please?
I second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Marshall,
Aye.
trustee Coe,
Aye.
trustee Lightgev,
Aye.
Mayor Plummer,
Hi.
motion passes. Mayor Plummer, you might want to remind the public we have trees.
That's right, thank you. We have trees when, right on our front porch against the building, and they're all native trees, and they're free. And we also have, some of them are shrubs as well, smaller shrubs, so help yourself and support our canopy. Thanks for the reminder, I forgot about that. Yeah, and we also had, this past Saturday, we had a really great joint event at Kingston Park with the town. Yeah, we gave away a lot of trees, and we talked about, keystone plants as part of the habitat, and it was really great, and more kids than I've seen in a long time. They all had fun.
And a lot of hammering on bluebird.
Yeah, they were building bluebird boxes at the table next to us, so there was a lot of hammering. But it was great, everybody had a good time. So next up, we have Native Tree Month for the month of April. Yep, it still is April, we're good. And actually, this proclamation was just signed by Governor Hochul just a couple of days ago. So everybody's sort of catching up on this, and I believe Malik Evans is going to sign it for the city of Rochester tomorrow. But again, this just really reinforces everything that we really believe in terms of best practices and sustainability for our village and for our community. And I would like the board to support this, and let's have another proclamation recognizing Native Tree Month, especially because we have native trees on our porch and we're giving them away.
Just so the board knows, the full proclamation, there was a little confusion. I left it at the table, it just came out.
Oh, it's right
in your
And
hand.
it has all the whereases. Yeah, this is sort of
Yeah, this was
Yeah.
directly from the state.
Yeah, and so this is like the real deal, a whole bunch of whereases and be it results and, but.
Does this hold us accountable to any particular action?
I think to native plants, we're accountable to
So
them.
anytime we plant something that should be native, is all this?
Well, that's really where we're going, and that we
Yeah.
really want to support it and support habitats that are
Yeah.
sustainable in our community, yeah,
That all works.
yeah.
Yeah, I think we already have provisions in our code. I think that this is fine with me, and I think that we've already got stronger provisions in our code that say that we're already doing this kind of thing by mentioning the Cornell Cooperative Extension list of supported species and that kind of thing in our comp plan too, so.
Yeah, but I think it reinforces it, and we're actually joining in, this is a national recognition to have Native Plant Month in April, so it's at the federal level, the state level, and then with local municipalities, so yeah, I think it's a good thing. So I'll entertain a motion to approve this proclamation.
So moved.
Is there a second, please?
Second?
Oh, you're tied, you were right
Go
there.
ahead.
You can have it, Dave.
All right.
Okay.
I already
I'll
wrote
back
this,
to-
that's
All right,
We
okay.
won't fight about it.
All right,
Okay.
trustee Coe,
Aye.
trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev,
Aye.
Mayor Plummer,
Hi.
motion passes.
Okay, then we're going to skip down right now to the PGA porta potties. Lots of glamour, but it's important. Zach, we've been talking about this, that, the week of the PGA here, we are going to have probably thousands of people coming through our community, and we already have the porta potties set up on Shane Place, and we're looking at doubling them for the week and really making sure that they're properly cleaned out and really maintained very consistently throughout the week. So I believe we have some estimates on that as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm assuming, and I hate to assume, Zach will reinforce, that we're just going to double
Yeah.
what we currently have, and we'll pay the same price we would pay on the weekly charge.
Yeah,
And I think we want to increase the cleanup days.
yeah. Right now, we're at 4, but I think we should just have every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, for that reason. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the porta potty doubling.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Just a quick question.
Sure.
This is in both the tentative budget that's been adopted and the current?
No,
So neither is going on last year?
it's going on the current budget year we're in,
Okay.
Yep.
Great.
and I'm going to watch that line, make sure we don't go over.
Nothing
Thank
further?
you. So we need a second still, do
We
we?
need a second.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, let's talk about the banner application, and Zach, I think this is a really nice idea. If you want to just, talk about it, because people call in and they want to, hang up banners and things, and it's sort of, verbal discussions, but this sort of formalizes it and gives people information. We get all the accurate information as well. So it's nothing more than,
streamlining process.
yeah, streamlining it and just putting it on a form, so everybody kind of has the same information. So we just
Most
wanted,
questions will be answered.
yeah, so.
So I have a question, as a new member, we're kind of all over the place on the agenda. Is that a normal thing? Is that,
It can be, we do have a public hearing, but it's not set.
okay, so you're just
So
kind of
we're
filling
just
in.
kind of ticking off some of the stuff that we know we can get through. Yep,
All right,
and we move things around as needed. Yep,
And with regards to this, it doesn't change the approval process of the banner, it just simply formalizes the nature of how people submit.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
most of the time it's through email, can I please have these up during these times, without having a lot of answers to questions they have, so a lot of back and forth. This will provide a lot of that information for them before they submit it, just making it simple.
Mhm.
Is, just out of curiosity, is there a banner cost? Is there on the list of
Not
permits?
to us, they supply the banner.
No, I'm saying with respect to the application.
Oh, a fee? A
Fee.
fee to hang our
I
banner.
was just asking the question.
We never had a fee, have we?
No, we provide labels for free.
So there's a reason why I'd asked is, I think it's the fourth bullet, if you get over 8 banners, you had to submit another one, so I was just questioning whether or not we should have more banners at 16, just be the base versus 8, but I'm fine with it as written, given that there's no.
And
fee for
typically
submitting.
the banners are geared to events that support our community, support our businesses, that like, when the Buffalo Bills come in, or, things like that, or
The
sort
Monroe
of major,
Invitational.
major events, exactly.
We have the means to be able to hang 16 banners, so we want to limit it to 8 banners per event. That way, if there are 2 events going on at the same time,
Oh,
Multiples.
But if not, you can have up to 16. So for example, I think you had at least 16 of the Monroe Invitational ones that were up,
yes.
right? So they could do that again if they submitted 2 applications for that.
I'm honestly open to suggestions, so it'll be up for you guys to decide, honestly.
Yep. No more than 16 banners if 2 banner requests, so it still provides for that mechanism. Okay. I'll entertain, well, I'm not entertaining, I'll just make a motion.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Do we want to maybe create a form then that would go on their website under applications and that way?
Oh, that's the intention.
Okay, perfect.
That's the intention, yeah. Yep.
I'll second Dave's motion.
Okay.
Motion to
We're good,
approve.
motion, second, okay. Roll call, please.
Trustee Coe.
hi,
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, next up, the meeting schedule, and I believe this was an item added by trustee Coe.
yes, what if I remember that cheat sheet? I had everything in order. Here we are, okay. So I want to discuss changing the meeting date from Thursdays to Tuesdays. Thursdays are a personal conflict for me. I travel a lot on Thursday nights to go out of town on Friday. I think personally, I did this with the HPB. I switched our meetings to Monday at 5:30. I'm also trying to switch it to 5:30 from 6:30. I think that it may be easier on the staff because the staff is kind of here till 4:35 and they can just stay instead of having to go home or find something to do and then come back. I think that we don't have a typical 9 to 5 schedule anymore. People work all different hours, so I don't think that we have to kind of think about banking hours and people need to go home and then do their thing. So I would like to propose that we move the board meetings from Thursdays at 6:30 to Tuesdays at 5:30, starting as soon as possible.
Any comments from the board?
I'm okay with you.
I'm very comfortable with that.
I know that the meetings originally were at 7, and it was because a lot of people are coming from work still, or even if they're working at home, they still have a traditional workday when their hours end, and then families with kids and, dinner and all of that. So I still think 6:30 would at least allow for more people perhaps to participate than 5:30. That's my feeling. And the reason why it was changed to Thursday actually was in support of staff, because there's so much that goes into, how many packets have you just done? Updates? 3 or 4, there's constant updating on packets. And when you're coming off of a weekend and you have one day and then the meeting is the next day, it's a big crunch for staff here in the office. And so if you have a few days leading up to Thursday, our meetings tend to be, there's a lot going on in this little village. And when we did change it to Thursday, we really felt, I know certainly here in the office, we recognized that it really made a difference for staff. And I don't know if you want to weigh in on that as well, because then you're just in on Friday, you're wrapping things up, you're closing out things that happened on that meeting before. So I personally would like to keep it at Thursday. And I understand you have a travel, you like to travel in that, but I think in terms of just public access, 6:30 and Thursdays seem to have been fine for the public as well.
So let me make a comment. So when I changed it from 6:30 to 5:30 with HPB, I got a lot of comments from the public saying that they liked it early.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing, as you know, these board meetings can go 3.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So bringing it at 5:30, I think people are much more willing and able to have clear minds and talk and discuss. When it goes till 9 instead of 10, I know I certainly do, people get up early, so I just think that people are fresher earlier in the night, and, that makes for a really long day.
I think HPB also is a bit of a different type of meeting. This is, we're the elected officials conducting business in our village, and I think the 6:30 time, and even when it was 7, we would always get active participation. We've never had any negative feedback about that. I mean, I can understand how it worked for HPB, with a different type of meeting and different type of, way you conduct business. But I think really we're conducting business in front of the public, and this has worked at this time and day.
Okay, well, I'd like to make a motion unless people want to say anything more.
If I may, with regards to Tuesdays, one of the things I tend to like about Tuesdays versus Thursdays is it may push the agendas out prior to the weekend. And many of the agendas and the additions to the agendas come out on Tuesday or like today, fairly soon. And from a public perspective, if we go to Tuesdays, it may be that the bulk of the agenda hits the website by Thursday, Friday, which gives the public an opportunity over the weekend to review the majority of it versus a little later in the week when it gets pretty tight. I know that's been true for me even in reviewing it. Also, the comment on time, I think, maybe meeting somewhere in the middle at 6 o'clock might be reasonable. There's a lot of things that we can get done in the first half hour to 45 minutes that maybe the public doesn't come to comment on. If we have 7 o'clock public comment periods, I think that's still reasonable.
Well, that brings me to another thing that we've discussed off and on, is having a workshop, a trustee workshop, where we really work through a lot of things before they come back onto the agenda, so our meetings aren't so long. And I really think the board should consider that.
You mean like adding another meeting day, or is it a workshop?
No, if there's quote 2 meetings a month, one of the meetings would be the workshop. Dorothea, you've worked in environments like that, so I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add with that, but it seems to be a lot more efficient, frankly.
In my previous experience, we used to have a workshop, and that would go 2-3 hours, and the board would have that time, the public can join in, they can discuss things, but when they got to the board meeting, it was just doing the motion seconds, going through conducting business. If you had a public hearing, public speaks. It just streamlined things, because though you had that discussion time, you didn't feel like you had 20 agenda items coming up that you had.
So again, it would be a workshop and then a meeting once a month.
They're both publicly noticed, they're both meetings, but the transactions would happen at the one meeting.
How long do you envision a workshop to be in a perfect world? Half an hour, an hour?
Depends on what.
Depends on the agenda, depends on what you're looking at.
Yeah.
If you're talking a local law, you want to iron out pieces, you want to talk to your attorney, you want to make sure everything's clean before you make a motion on it. It could take an hour just for that.
Jeff, what's your Tuesday nights like?
They want to change the meetings. There's a motion right now to change the meetings to Tuesdays at 5:30.
I'm at the board's pleasure.
I would point out trustee Lanfair isn't here.
Yeah, we don't have a full board.
I had talked with Lily and asked her what she thought about it,
Yeah.
and she did say that she would be okay.
Yeah, I'd like to have her to weigh in publicly, though. I think that's important when you're conducting business. Trustees, that she would weigh in publicly.
So if I have a motion on the table, it can't go forward because we don't have a full board, or can it go forward?
It's at the discretion. We have a motion, and we haven't had a second yet.
I'll make a second to the motion.
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Lickett,
Aye.
trustee Coe,
Aye.
trustee Marshall,
Aye.
Mayor Plummer,
Nope.
motion passes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to apologize to the board and to Mr. Pierce. Apparently, I've been neglecting my on-screen duties. He has a few comments, and I just
Okay,
want to read them
sure.
so he doesn't feel neglected. Art Pierce, he says, do not see Copperleaf on the agenda. Was it advertised? Yes, it was. No music outside, correct. And thinking he's referring to Copperleaf. And able to repeat limits of rope-off area in which the outside drinks can be carried.
I think he might be considering, or thinking about the
Lock-
label 7, the label 7
Mhm.
music. So he might be concerned that, because he's down that way, that the Copperleaf are doing music. So
Right,
just clarify that it's label 7.
yeah, it's just label 7 with the music.
Yeah.
And that the Copperleaf was in line with the Creators Fest and only during those hours.
Yeah, just during.
And it's daytime. It's
Yep.
daytime. Yeah.
And then we have Emily Diaz, and she said, was the public not allowed to speak?
No,
Public is allowed to speak. Oh, I have hands raised. I'm not paying attention today.
it's been a long day.
Okay, so. Nope. Okay, Ms. Diaz, you can speak.
Well, you guys have already voted on it, so this is after the fact, but I do think 5:30 is still early for working people. I know, yes, there is more flexibility with some people's works, but I was hoping that maybe we could at least get to a compromise of 6 p.m. As I think Dave suggested. And I do remember the discussion around when we were moving it from Tuesday, or you guys were moving it from Tuesday to Thursdays. And it was really eye-opening for me to hear all the work and preparation that goes into these meetings and the stress that it does put on the staff. So I was hoping that we would be mindful of that versus personal travel obligations.
Thank you, Emily. I'm sorry we didn't get to you. I'm sorry, we didn't see you. I think those are
If I
helpful.
may, staying on just member items and specific to the agendas. Trustee Coe, would you be open to the idea of a motion to have a workshop at 5:30 followed by the open meeting at 6? And if then we don't need the workshop, it's a 6 o'clock meeting rather than a 5:30, but if the workshop is deemed useful, then we'll do it at 5:30 instead. Because if we were to then instead have a workshop in advance of the 5:30 time, it would be challenging for me to get here at a reasonable hour.
Well, my understanding was the workshop was going to be a completely separate day. Correct?
Oftentimes it's before.
But you're proposing something different.
Yeah.
He's just looking at it in another way.
Okay.
We've always, at least on the planning board, had a workshop right before the meeting, right? And it was helpful to be right there at the point in time, have all the material in front of us prepared. I thought it was a nice lead-in. Sometimes it wasn't that depth of discussion. But I think it would also, to Ms. Diaz's comment, push it back just a little bit, but then give us the flexibility in advance at 5:30. Would you be open to that idea?
It would be open. I just wanted to say, though, that I thought that we could, kind of like we did before, I think the meeting flipped, where we kind of do all of our house cleaning before the public really needs to be here anyways, for that first half hour, 45 minutes. So it still brings us to 6:30 almost, pretty much for the,
It may not always be the case, though.
yeah, I mean, I'm open to that. I mean, if you guys, I mean, I would prefer 5:30, but
It just would make it difficult for me with the workshop, and I did appreciate the workshops on the planning and zoning board.
but again, that's considering that the workshops are before the board meeting.
Yes,
We were talking about having a workshop completely separate. It would be a workshop, and then there would be a board meeting, and a separate, 2 weeks apart from each other, correct?
Could be,
I
it could be a
mean,
week
right.
apart, could
That was the original.
That was the original
Right.
thought.
The board.
So that the. so
Just
the
because there's so
workshop-
many, we typically have very packed agendas, as you can see, so, that was the thought, that we can sort things out in a workshop. Yeah,
I
Justin?
wonder if, in the interest of making sure that our decisions and discussions are related to things that are on the agenda, if we're going through a different format with a workshop, perhaps we can add that to the agenda and talk about it at a subsequent meeting.
Yeah.
If that would be okay.
Yeah,
I'm
let's do
just
it.
going to point out, if we're making this immediate,
Oh, yeah.
you just set a public hearing for May 11th. So
Yep.
that's a problem, and I don't have dates in front of me, so I
Well,
request
we
that,
Can we just change the public hearing?
Hang on.
I don't have dates in front of me, and I have to count to make sure we
They're
have the
specific.
legal notification times. So I would request that, although, it might be inconvenient, can we stick the current meeting schedule for May 11th, and then the following meeting be on
I think
Tuesday?
that's very
That gives me a
practical.
chance to update the schedule and get it to the board in a timely
I
manner.
think that
Very
could
Yeah,
work
that's
with
fine.
time, too.
And the public hearing, sure.
Okay.
Shall we make another motion to have that occur?
Sure.
Push back so I make a motion to push back the date at which the schedule changes until after the May 11th meeting.
I second.
and we'll see if this one falls flat, but I'll make a motion to.
There's a motion already on the
I'm sorry.
table, and there was a second, so we either have further discussion or we have a roll call.
Roll call. Trustee Marshall?
Aye.
Trustee Coe?
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Aye.
Motion passes.
What did you want?
My motion would be to just simply go from the 5:30 Tuesday to 6 o'clock, and we'll see if it falls flat. So I'll make a motion to change the time to 6 o'clock.
Okay, is there a
I'll
second?
second it for discussion.
Second
Okay,
for discussion, okay.
further discussion, please, from the board.
So Dave, I understand that, and I could see if there was going to be a workshop, but that's not even on the table yet. And if we do have a workshop, I would rather do it on a separate, completely separate day. So that's just my thought.
Okay, anything from you, Justin? Okay,
Roll call.
roll call.
Trustee Lightgev?
No.
Trustee Marshall?
Aye.
Trustee Coe?
No.
Mayor Plummer?
No, because let's just try this out. We can always amend it. I mean, we're going down a rabbit hole here.
All right.
Okay, let's
Motion
just.
fails. Let me make sure I get the right
Okay.
words out. I don't get to say that.
All righty, so it's after 7 o'clock. So we have the public hearing for the special permit for Cycle Cafe.
And I actually, before we open up that public hearing and move to that agenda item, I wanted to mention that, to me, there's been some uncertainty that's come into this process from the time that we started, when we believed that the project was on one parcel where we had the owner's approval. We then thought that it was actually partially on a village-owned parcel, and we most recently found out that the front part of this parking lot is actually owned by the Department of Transportation. And so far, I have not heard any confirmation that they're looking to entertain a sale or a permit of that property. So my proposal is that we table this item until we have some further clarity on the ownership or the ability to utilize that component of the property.
I think we have clarity on ownership.
Yeah.
Yes. Ability to use is more,
Okay. We have clarity on ownership. We know who owns what.
yes, we do. So that is my proposal, and I'll make that a motion.
The only question I have, and it's the one Dorothy is going to have, so go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't think you can table a public hearing.
You know,
That's what
Can we open it and then continue
You
it?
can
Yes.
cancel a public hearing,
Why wouldn't we open it and continue?
but you could open it and continue it, but if you're going to do that, it has to be continued to a specific date and time.
Yep.
So that, whatever the board wants to do, but and the only advantage of doing the latter is that you don't have to republish.
Mhm.
So, board's call.
Well, I mean, to table it, I think we should at least open we have a public hearing, we need to open the public hearing, and then we could continue it regardless, you know?
I would be okay with that.
I think it's just.
Do you have to make a motion for that?
You sure do? You have to.
You'd have to motion, you'd have to open it and then adjourn unless you take public comment. So I think the motion should be to open and adjourn if that's what the board wants.
Well, there's people here to comment, I mean,
Well, then
you
just
know,
open it
we have
and-
people from the public here, so I would think we would want to hear,
Yes.
people were expecting this. Okay, so is there a motion?
Well, we don't have to make a motion, right? We're opening it.
When we open the
You
hearing?
have to make a motion to
To open.
open the public
Okay.
We
hearing.
make a motion to open the public hearing, so, is there a motion? From anybody?
I make a motion to open the public hearing.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Lickett?
Aye.
Trustee Marshall? Trustee Coe?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Aye.
Motion
Okay, the
passes.
public hearing is open. Is there anyone wishing to speak? Yes.
Yeah, so, first of all.
Could you name and address, please?
Justin Leisha, I'm 19 Belton. Your application is for 5 State Street. I don't believe the application before you for this parcel is this. Any comments about this? And the use as a restaurant, I don't believe extends to this. So I'm just asking for you guys, I'm not sure if this is before the trustees at all. You can discuss it. I believe the site plan has been approved for this, so that layout, that is already involved. So since you are reviewing the use and it's not here and it's not the same property, I'm not sure what this is before you, so that's my comment.
Thank you very much. Okay, is there anyone else wishing to speak?
Is this the cycle cabinet?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, my name is Brian Cardona. I live in the Village of Fairport on Miles Avenue. I'm the president of the Genesee Valley Cycling Club. We're a local cycling club that's been in existence since 1976. We have about 150 members in the club that participate annually, and I'm here to support this project. Pittsburgh is the hub of the cycling community in Rochester. Many times weekly, members of the community come to Pittsburgh to meet, to start their rides. We traditionally was the Canal Town Coffee Roasters, I think 25 years ago when I started riding, and it's evolved into different businesses that have been here. Chuck has an idea here for a world-class cycling cafe. We think that'd be a great contribution to the community. The cycling community in Rochester is very special. We have one professional rider now in New York. We have 2 more on that track, so it's something that we take a lot of pride in. We think it is a big part of the fabric of Rochester. And Pittsburgh is at the hub. The canal path is here, you can get to Mendon very easily, and get to Wayne County very easily. So we think this is a great idea, and we'd love to see it.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
comment. Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Thank you. My name is Robert Schuler, new co-owner of Tobacco Bite as of December.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow, great.
Grant is my business partner. I've been in the cycling community for over 20 years. I support Chuck's vision. It's everything I believe in and love in life. More importantly, I see it as new business opportunities to bring a new culture, new life, and new opportunities for everyone in the village. I think there's enough to go around in the village, and we're in a time of change, and I welcome new change.
Thank you for your comment. Okay. Is there anyone else? Yep. Oh,
Charlie?
Oh, yeah, Charlie, yep.
Hi, Charlie Fitzsimmons. I own the Village Bakery at 5 State Street. I own JoJo down the street, and I own Bowling across the street as well. I hate to say I'm speaking against this, because I do think it's a pretty cool idea. And I don't, I grew up with the Likeleys, I love the Likeleys, like the new owner. I like the idea. What I don't like is that for so many years, to have a business here, you had to have a parking requirement. And that's because you needed parking. People, 90% of the cars in the comprehensive plan even supports it, drive here, 90%. So if you're not walking, you're driving. And we know because we've had a lot of challenges in our parking lot, and they're premium. Parking spots are a premium. So I don't understand how, especially I share a building and we're a competing business for the most part. I mean, we're not biking as much as they are, though we used to have bikers come. Hopefully we still have some bikers come. But it's the same building, yet all the requirements for this gentleman have been stricken. The key requirements that I had to have to open business. So, I'm a little hurt as a business owner, been here 12 years, and then someone comes in, and it almost seems like the precedent is set. Hire a really capable firm, put together some really nice pictures. And I've been here, this is my 6th meeting, I've never heard any real pertinent questions as to where are you putting everybody? How is this going to work? How are you working with your neighbor? What about you parking in his lot? Are you going to help him, protect his spots? Secondly, I think he's got 50 seats inside, 50 seats plus 40 seats outside. There's 130 public parking spots. So I'm just curious, has there been any kind of parking analysis? Anything, you see, where are these cars going? If 90% of the people coming are driving here, where are all the cars going? I don't know, I know it's nice to fill up storefronts and, make it more walkable, and I like that. But the reality is, all the cars are coming, and they're gonna have to go somewhere. And there's no spots. If you go anywhere in the public spots, in the proposed operating hours, there's no parking spots anywhere. So I just asked, where are all the cars going to go?
You address your comments to the board, please.
Oh, I was to the.
Yeah, please address to the board, thank you.
Mayor, can I address?
Can we just?
Well, yeah, that's generally it, is because I've operated a business there for 12 years. So the one thing is, a competing business coming in and there's no requirements for them, I don't think is fair. I think it's just not fair. And secondly, there's a real problem. There's going to be a ton of cars. There's going to be more cars. And I haven't heard one thing, what are we doing with the cars? It'd be nice to just, I like the idea, let's make it more walkable, let's fill storefronts, but if it hurts the existing businesses in the process, I just don't think that's good. If you're going to hurt an existing business by adding another one, there's a net sum zero. I don't see the benefit. I think it just needs a little bit more planning. How does this all work? I like the idea of walkability, but you got to have a place for cars. And then also, if you just weigh all the requirements, if Park Ave Bike comes in next to Towpath, and they don't need any parking spots, and they can have this fancy track out there, I think Towpath would be pretty pissed. It's just not that fair. So, I know the planning board during Easter when we were away went and made a decision. We didn't have a chance to comment on it. I tried to comment on Tuesday, and they said, well, we've already made that decision. So I want to see growth in the village. I'm happy for them, great. But last night, one of the gentlemen, Mr. Reynolds, he's an alternate on the planning board, said part of the comprehensive plan, which we're saying this is part of the comprehensive plan, more walkability. He said to heat the patio, he did some research, to heat the patio in the winter is the equivalent of the electric for 40 houses in the village. And I think the planning board was like, okay, great. And then they said, well, he could turn it off. He's not going to use it in the winter. People aren't sitting outside. And then when they're going through the punch list of necessary things on the planning board, it was snow removal. And they quickly said, well, it's just going to melt with the heat. Like, well, they were just saying he's going to turn it off. So it's sort of whatever's convenient. And the reality is, as much as I like the walkability, if you're within this little area and you can walk, great. In biking, I'll get you $15,000, we can put it to charity, that
Please address the board.
majority of your
Please address the
staff
board.
is
Thank you.
not biking there. And I love biking, and it's great, I got bikes. But the reality is, the majority of the people going there, majority of the staff, and he's gonna have a big staff, because I know the business, I've been in it forever. He has not. They're not biking there. So someone, you gotta displace those people.
Thank you so much for your input, Charlie.
Charlie, can I just
Appreciate
ask a question? Can I ask Charlie a question?
Yeah.
Where do you get the statistics 90% of the people that come to the village are driving?
It was on the comprehensive.
90% are driving to the village?
That's what the plan.
And that was, what was it, 5 years ago? 4 years?
Wow, that seems
5
awfully
years.
high.
5 years. It's shifting. I mean, I do think it is shifting, especially with COVID and things have changed. But, yeah, but that, you're right, it was in there, I think, something like that. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And there was a letter that was sent in.
And I apologize, I don't have it in my phone, guys. Do you have it on your email?
Oh.
I've got a charger.
Anyway. I can run, if the board wants to give me, I can run.
Let me see if I can find it.
And I do have residents wishing to speak on that.
Well, why don't we go with residents? I'll try to find the letter.
Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate
thank you,
that.
sure.
Mr. Pierce, you're allowed to speak.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi, Art.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you for receiving the call here. A couple of quick questions, but I think actually Charlie just made reference to it. I wasn't aware as to what and how the bike cafe would operate in the winter. But here again, Charlie just shed some light on that. He makes some very interesting points. I think at this point, because the village is trying to encourage innovative and creative businesses and shake up the look of the village to the positive, maybe it's a possibility for Charlie to come back to the village board and ask for certain relief as far as parking. And tied in with that, I'm just curious as to the number of parking spaces required and then that provided by the Village Bakery. And that's not a challenge. It's more the fact that my gut feeling is there's a lot more people that travel to the village than the parking can accommodate. So with that said, I certainly understand and appreciate everything Charlie's saying, but maybe it's a point for the village to consider parking regulations just by the uniqueness of the limited space within the village, that you relax the parking requirements, and then that would allow businesses such as Charlie to come in. But I'd have to guess that in the board, or Charlie can address this at some other time or tonight, what is required by the Village Bakery and what's provided. And here again, my best guess is that it's under provided as far as number of spaces, which is not a criticism. It's just that he's functioning very well with that scenario, as well as obviously the cafe would do also, if that makes sense. Thank you.
Thanks, Art. You just have to weigh in because parking has already been,
The parking required for that parcel has already been addressed.
Yeah, and not by this board.
Not sure that it takes it away from this board.
Yeah, but just to.
It would have to
let
be a
people know.
comparison between the other businesses in the TDD, not the other district. So, but that's really a law question for another day.
Yeah, that's a little bit bigger there, for sure.
Well, it may not be another day, but
I know.
for another few minutes.
Yeah, down the pike, as we say. Steve, I see you, but we're just going to take a few more public comments, please. Thank you.
Ms. Diaz, you're able to speak.
Hi, this is Emily again. So I'm at 81 South Street. Sorry, I didn't say that the first time.
Thank you, Emily.
I think this is a super exciting project. I mean, these renderings are like super snazzy, and I think we should all be really happy that someone wants to come into our village and make this kind of investment. I think, of course, there are some large question marks, especially, Trustee Leica brought that up at the beginning about property ownership. That definitely needs to get worked out. and hopefully we can get all parties working together. But, I think ultimately at the end of the day, this supports our active transportation plan and encouraging a more walkable and bikeable community. I hear the argument that a lot of people are still driving cars, but people are going to continue driving cars until we create the environment to encourage more biking. So if we're not gonna make those types of investments and changes, then yes, people are going to continue driving their cars. So I honestly hate that parking lot, the Rachel's parking lot. It's so tight, it's hard to get in and out of. I think it's actually unsafe. So I would love to see that get rid of. So I think it's really exciting opportunity, and I support this project.
Thank you for your comments.
Thanks,
Do
Emily.
you have the letter right now?
Yes,
Okay, to read?
I'll do the letter real quick.
Yeah.
Okay. This is Trip Pearson. And he says, good afternoon, evening. I spoke with Chuck Mancini the other day about his proposed Cycle Cafe, and I fully support the energy and the enthusiasm he has for this project. Additionally, and you'll have to confirm this with Bob Corey, but the parking lot behind the Phoenix building used to be a beer garden back in the day, and the proposal for the cafe has a beer garden kind of vibe. I defer to the APRB on all those things, but I like the concept drawings. We need more destination businesses in the village like Lock 32, Breathe, the bakery, and of course the dairy. Hopefully this cafe will add to the pedestrian-friendly environment that we have been cultivating for the last several decades. Call if you have questions.
So that was Trip Pearson, Mitchell Pearson.
Oh, thanks.
They're in the Phoenix building, so they're on the other side of the proposed.
I have two more.
Okay, yep.
Mr. Reynolds, you're allowed to speak.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. This is Mike Reynolds on behalf of the owners of the property. I just wanted to share a few words. First of all, thank you to the boards that we've been interacting with for your thoughtful questions and feedback. This has been a very iterative process on behalf of the owners and the applicant here. But we appreciate the process that we've gone through to make sure this is done the right way, because it's going to be a landmark in this village. And our family's been a part of the village since 1982. My father opened Empire Paint in that location, and we've been property owners and involved in the community ever since. And, Chuck Mancini brings a very unique opportunity. And he's not sitting in an office in a franchise in a far enough place. Like, he is a member of this community and has been for a very long time. And we're impressed by his passion. I mean, we're a relatively risk averse property owner, but his passion and the fact that he has brought a concept from Spain that is proven to work and is gorgeous. And he's also bringing an A team. I mean, he's bringing Marathon Engineering, RPK Consulting, Hamilton Stern, Hanlon Associates. I mean, these are local firms with stellar reputation. So he's not cutting corners. You've seen it in his renderings, and everything he does is top notch. And that's given us, as the owners of this property, the confidence to give up our parking. It was not an easy task for us to be willing to do that. And I hear the comments and the comments that they made in the past, and I can't necessarily disagree that the safety and the traffic of that parking lot have been altered since the Village Bakery moved in 2011. But this is truly a transformational business for the culture and the feel of the village, with zero taxpayer requirement and zero burden on the village, with a number of the comprehensive plans being met. So I want that to sort of resonate. I mean, a couple other things I just like to mention is, with reference to the ownership by the DOT, we strongly would like to get the approval through tonight, because going to DOT to say that it's approved aside from them is going to be helpful. Also, we believe it's relatively procedural and is going to be easier than our process with the village. So I think we look at it as we're on the very close to the finish line here. We would like to finish and have this DOT procedural approval be afterwards, and that way we can do things that don't we can basically get the ball rolling on this project. So again, I want to thank you all for your time and for your feedback throughout the process. And yeah, hopefully we move forward and this just becomes a transformational project for this village.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Yep. Thank you.
Mr. Ferris, you're allowed to speak.
Dave?
Dave?
Hello?
Is he on mute?
Not on my end.
I'm in Rangoon.
Put my hand down.
There you go.
There you are.
Mr. Ferris, you can speak.
I took my hand down. The question was answered.
Okay.
You took it down
All
because I
right.
unmuted.
Okay, thanks,
Sorry.
Dave. Yep.
Okay,
Is that,
just, oh, no, giving it. Mr. Pierce just added a quick thing. Board can grant the special permit conditionally upon the resolution of any property ownership issues.
thank you. Okay. Oh, yeah,
Can I make public comment?
sure, but name and address.
Okay, so I'm Chuck Mancini, I'm the developer of the La Fabrica Cafe, and I appreciate the comments that have been made, thanks to the public. I just returned at 1 in.the morning from Spain, where I spent the last 10 days in Girona, and much of that time was with the owners of La Fabrica, who will be licensing the cafe here. The support from that couple, the former Canadian pro cyclist Christian Meyer and his wife Amber, is exceptional. They're very excited. In fact, they're currently planning to come to Pittsburgh, assuming that we can get the approvals done. Christian is being very engaged right now in the interior design. But the one observation I want to make, I've been traveling to Girona since 2019, and that city has become cycling mad. It's just extraordinary, the transformation. It's a very walkable, small city, this downtown historic area, but the volume of people keeps going up and up and up and up, and you don't see more cars. And the reason is because people find parking outside the historic area, and they make their way in either by walking or by cycling. And in talking to Christian and Amber, they've seen the volume of their business go up and up and up every year, even though no one can drive to their business. And so what it shows me is that in a historic village like Pittsburgh, in order to foster a transformation away from cars right in the center of the village, you have to start with destination cafes. And you have to make it hard for people to come by cars. And so yes, we're going to make it really difficult. We're going to have an amazing product in an amazing setting in an amazing village, and people are going to want to come, and they're quickly going to find that driving is a nuisance. And if they drive, they're going to have to park, quite a ways away. It's going to take them time, and they're quickly going to learn that either park a long way away and you walk in, or you cycle in. And that's exactly the transformation that we want to foster in our communities. So asking me, to either reduce the number of seats or reduce the number of interior tables so that we can have more people driving here is just nuts. I mean, I love the fact that we're going to have a very dense seating inside, very intimate. Our courtyard is going to offer seating. And yes, people might have to wait to get a table. But that would be beautiful when people say, you know what, let's walk there, let's drive there. And so we're actually part of the solution, we're not part of the problem. It's just going to take some risk on the part of the village to do this. And we're going to have to learn together. There have been comments made about the radiant heat in the cobbles. I feel like I'm doing battle with social media where people throw out all kinds of fake news and fake stats, and then it gets repeated by by neighbors and community members, there was no basis for the comment that was made at the planning board by Mr. Reynolds about the amount of power that's going to be used to generate to radiate the cobbles on days when it's snowing. He hasn't done calculations on the size of the property. He hasn't done calculations on the system we're using. He threw out a number, who knows where he got it, and it's been repeated tonight. And I would say if we're going to rely on that kind of data, then we're not a scientifically based community. I mean, let's look at facts. And so at the end of the day, we think this is an amazing project. Yes, the DOT is a little bit of a problem. This is something that came up in the last 2 weeks. I've shaded the area of the courtyard that is on DOT land. Clearly, there's going to be a few stairs, a few seats on the DOT land. And so what we asked the planning board, and we're asking this village board of trustees, is to approve our special permit, subject to getting the DOT approval. And if we don't get the DOT approval, it's not going to go forward. But I'd rather, as Mike Reynolds said, I'd rather get the approval tonight. We'll sort things out with the DOT. We've already started a dialogue. Our engineer from Marathon Engineering has already begun talking to the DOT representative for Monroe County Real Estate. We'll get through this. It might mean that we can't open this summer, but at least we can start down the path of getting this project completed. The other element that remains outstanding is our rubbish plan. Our plan is to, for rubbish disposal, to use the deeded shared easement that comes with this property. We do need to go back to the planning board on May 3rd. I think that's their next planning board meeting. But again, we would ask that the special permit be subject to getting the site plan approval with the rubbish easement in place by the planning board. If they don't approve, then we don't have a project. But I would ask this board to, again, do the special permit subject to. So those are the two subject twos, DOT and the planning board site permit. The one last element outstanding is the Historic Preservation Board. They scheduled a special meeting for May 1st. Ryan Kelly presented to them. The only outstanding concerns that they had were the size of the columns. And it's because of the way we did our renderings. The columns look more massive than they really are. So what we've done is we've actually done a mock-up over at the 5 State Street property that shows the size of the columns. And we think when they stop by and they visit that, and then they see the revised renderings that we're providing, they'll realize that these columns are not as massive as they feared. So anyway, that will take place on May 1st. And we think that's the last outstanding item for the Historic Preservation Board. Brian, is there any other elements that we needed to cover tonight? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mayor, can I address them?
Yeah, sure.
If first chance you don't get the DOT to approve that space, could you do the project without that little area?
Unfortunately, no. Here's the, you can see that there's a significant part of the courtyard that is on the DOT property. And so what we would need to do is we would need to find an alternate site. There seems to have been some resolution of the Phoenix building with the DOT in recent months. And we're going to be talking to Mike Newcomb on how he got this resolved, because we clearly need to do the same thing. It was something that surprised everybody on our team, it surprised the building owner. We did not know that part of the parking lot was on a DOT property, but we did it address.
Answered?
Yes, thank you so much.
Yep. Oh, there was somebody behind you, excuse me, you've already spoken.
No, I just wanted to quick speak to the.
Well, you've already, okay.
Again, I won't be 2 seconds.
Okay, thank you.
But
Because we have other people.
I just want to lend some clarity to
Yep.
the rubbish. There's, and I know your attorney here is aware of it. There's
some legal considerations to a deed agreement, where we have let them use our rubbish for years, and it's in the deed, and I've been able to use an approved handicap spot on their site. So without getting into how, I interpret that deed and that language, that's for the courts and the attorneys to figure out. I just want to let you know that they do not, if it goes ahead and they're able to wipe out part of the deed where we're not able to use their handicap spot, they won't have access to the garbage. That's what I've been advised from the attorneys. I just want to make that clear.
Okay, thanks
So
for the
there isn't-
clarification, I appreciate it, yep, for sure. There was another hand up, I couldn't see, yes.
Hi, Dan Clifford, 80 North Country Club Drive, rental property across the street, 8 State Street. It's kind of a lot to unpack here, because I think the concept is great, the renderings are great. So I think parking is at a premium, and the talk to take 6 spots away, and, there's a new Copper Beach Park, you're losing 3 more spots, and there's curb cuts that have been done, and you lose spots, then across from St. Louis, the parking is tapered and gone. The idea that was just mentioned with the concept of we're gonna make it difficult to get here is downright selfish, when there's other businesses that have to try to accept the fact that this particular property, they want to take 6 spots away, and then it kind of cannibalizes other spots that might be available. I get the idea or the hope that all of a sudden people are going to start biking or walking more, and if I'm Mr. Reynolds and I want this as a property owner because they got here, great, because it's hard to find good tenants, and obviously Rachel's moved elsewhere for whatever reason. And I don't know that it's our job to try to change the culture and that's the spot to do it. I mean, if there was another alternate site, which I would think would be, it's none of my business, but there's other sites where you could take out parking that may or may not matter, or a field or something like that. So I guess I wish the concept well, but I just don't know that that's the right course of action, take more parking away. Because I think it's that the idea, again, that people will find a way to get there. It's like, well, that's not a gamble or a risk that somebody else should take for the businesses that are already in the village. That's it.
Thank you, thanks for your input. Yeah. Yeah, we have, okay, very quickly, because you've already spoken, I'm trying to give everybody an opportunity.
I just add, as a Fairport resident, this is a big topic there too. And I think everybody knows what's going on in the village of Fairport as a longtime resident. And I'm mixed about the power thing. Mr. Kyle, he's very much opposed to what's happening with bicycles in Fairport, but at the same time, what we're seeing as far as seeing in the community is awesome. People are walking, people are biking. And I think we have these canal towns have a unique opportunity. And something.
Thank you. Yes, Tucker, you had your hand up?
Yeah. So Tucker Bowie, I live on Caversham Woods here in Pittsburgh. So I wrote something just because I'm not very good at public speaking. As a business owner, and I work with Charlie Fitzsimmons at Village Bakery. As an owner and member of the Pittsburgh community, I come for you today to express my concerns about the granting of variances and easing of rules to allow a new business to open directly in front of ours, the Village Bakery. For over a decade, we've worked tirelessly to keep our doors open and provide welcoming place for all. Our cafe is owned and operated by Pittsburgh residents with over 60 years experience combined in the restaurant business. My children go to school to Pittsburgh, play sports, dance, play music, and are active in the community. We've employed countless residents and children and always complied with the requests of the village boards, including environmental soil tests, cleaning up a dirty old car garage, removing multiple 5,000-gallon oil tanks, installing safety measures, and more. During the challenging times of the COVID-19 pandemic, Instead of shutting down, we pivoted our business to offer grocery deliveries, providing essentials such as fresh bread, milk, soup, and other staples to the homes of Pittsburgh residents who are afraid or unable to go outside or travel to a grocery store. We also supplied food to the fire department, local hospitals, and fed nurses and first responders working at MCC COVID testing facility. We are now just beginning to recover and think about reinvesting in our space here. I understand the Sport Village's vision of encouraging more walking. However, it's important to acknowledge that parking is still necessary, and the village should not discriminate against individuals who are unable to walk to a business due to physical limitations, distance, or the weather. We're so fortunate to be a destination for visitors from all over the world who come to see the canal, local colleges, PGA Tour events, and the Bills training camp. We should actively encourage and welcome all visitors into the village rather than creating barriers that make it difficult. Obviously, I was shocked to discover the village recently granted a variance for the property in front of ours, resulting in the elimination of 6 parking spaces, including a handicap space that is deeded to us and shared by the Village Bakery and has been since we first opened. When we bought the building, according to village code, we were required to provide parking to have seating in our restaurant. This was a key factor in picking our space. While 6 parking spaces may not sound like a significant number, there are only 113 by my count in the public off-street parking spots available in the lots across the street. And that is already a small and crowded parking environment. Is it the intent of the village? Is it the intent of the village to allow for all private lot spaces to be waived with special variances? And if so, where will anyone park? The business being encouraged is spearheaded by a retired businessman who does not live in our town or village and is attempting to create his vacation experience from Girona, Spain, a tourist destination with a very different climate, geography, and demographic. Girona, Spain is an ancient medieval city, more than 2,000 years old, with over 100,000 residents. Girona enjoys a humid subtropical climate and rarely sees temperatures below freezing. Girona, Spain is nothing like the village of Pittsburgh. Also note, he lacks relevant experience in running a cafe and has made absurd claims about staffing, waste generation, and food production. He's backed by a very elaborate story, a very beautiful presentation, and expensive graphical renderings. I think someone called them super snazzy earlier. The variances and easing of the rules being granted to this new business raise concerns about fairness and consistency in the village's decision-making process. I'm not against new business or competition, but I strongly believe that any business should be subject to the same rules and regulations that have been in place for others. Granting special favors and exemptions to one business while others have had to comply with parking and seating requirements, among others, creates an unfair playing field and can jeopardize the viability of existing businesses like ours. I request that the village please take its time and thoroughly evaluate the potential consequences of these variances and easing of rules on our community, including the impact on parking, accessibility, livelihood of existing businesses. I'd like to ensure decisions are made in a transparent, fair, and consistent manner with the best interests of the entire community in mind. And just one other last comment. I know he speaks about crazy facts being thrown out. You know, I find one hard to believe fact on yet another fancy document that's been presented. It was written that Girona is a charming cobbled old city with narrow pedestrian-only seats. Here's some pictures I'll show to you of the La Fabrica Cafe in Girona, Spain, with multiple cars parked right out front of their patio, multiple scooters, but I don't understand why it says pedestrian-only streets, unless he's referring to some other area. These are taken off of Google Maps, and welcome over to them. And they're just from December of 2022.
And if you've been there with me.
Excuse me 1 second, we have someone speaking. Please don't interrupt. Thank you.
That's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Was another hand? Was your hand up?
Thank you, Karen Barris, 81 South Main Street. I've just been listening to the parking issue, and I just want the board to consider something that Mr. Mancini brought up, and the fact that people will find places to park. And because we're kind of landlocked, we're kind of an island unto ourselves. The only areas that people will find to park are going to be in the residential areas in front of our homes. So this is a consideration down the road too if we decide to eliminate parking requirements. But every little bit of parking that's removed from the downtown gets distributed out into the residential areas. And the board needs to consider that as well.
Thank you. And was there another hand up? Was there a comment online?
There was. Mr. Pierce has another comment. Did you want to entertain it?
Art, can you just hold off for a minute? You've had a couple comments here. Steve, you had something you want, you're okay?
Since he's speaking as a public member.
Oh, that's true. This is a public hearing, you're right. We're going to hold off on you. Yes, Mr. Mancini, one last thought.
Very briefly, Tucker just presented some photos. What he does not understand, because he clearly hasn't been to Girona, is that those cars and those scooters belong to residents who live in the apartments in all these buildings. So in order for residents that live in the center city, there's exclusive parking lots for those residents. These are not for people traveling into the city park. Those are residential parking spaces exclusive to the residents. So, I mean, I relax on that.
Thank you. Okay.
So stupid.
Okay,
You know what,
let's,
You know what, on behalf of my team, I'm withdrawing our application, and we're done with this process. Thank you. Charlie Lynn, I start this month.
oh, wow. Didn't see that one coming. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
No other comments?
Just when I had.
Any comments? There's no application.
There's no application, there's nothing to comment on, he's withdrawn.
So moved.
Second. Trustee Lightgev?
I'd like to make a comment before the vote. I'm disappointed. I just, I think everybody, there's two sides to every story. I think we had an applicant before us that should have been heard. We should have gone through the whole process, and we didn't have an opportunity to do so. And I respect both sides, and I respect everybody's opinion, but I'm really disappointed that it happened this way. Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Lightgev?
Aye.
Trustee Marshall?
Aye.
Trustee Coe?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay. Why don't we do the back entrance bid really quickly here? Okay.
Trustee Lightgev had me reach out to Jennifer Aaron. She provided some comments. One of the things she said with the quotes, with the design, the village could look at removing the canopy to the back steps. If that was an option, it could be a savings to $25,000 to $30,000. The problem with that, an additional railing would be needed. We would have to again go back to Historic Preservation Board, plus we would have to go back to SHPO.
So I have some questions about this, and it's just, maybe it's a catch up, but can I just ask some questions about this?
Of course, yeah, sure.
Okay, so my first question is, who's using that downstairs? It's the Masons?
The American
The
Legion.
American Legion, okay.
It's the American Legion. It's also for anybody down there, regardless of whether it would be the Legion. It's a form of egress. Am I correct, Steve? It's a form of egress regardless of whether the Legion is down there.
It's a required emergency exit.
If there are people using that space downstairs, it has to be people. Like if it was storage, does there also need to be the egress?
No, it's only for when people are.
When people,
utilizing
okay.
the area.
And they've been using this space for how long, do we know?
Long before I came.
Oh, wow, years.
Okay, and they use it for board meetings, is that what they do?
Decades.
Excuse me,
Meetings,
decades.
Special functions, breakfast.
Okay. Is there a reason why they can't use this space up here?
Their kitchen is downstairs. They cook, they feed, on Tuesdays they have their
They have
breakfast,
breakfast,
they have their
okay.
own space,
Yes,
they have
community
their.
events.
They have a
It's-
full kitchen down there. and
Also, there's a conflict. I mean,
Yeah.
there's often a conflict between
Yeah.
when they want to do their thing and when the municipalities do their
Okay.
thing.
And then do they pay us rent?
They pay $101 a year.
Have you been down there? Have you seen them? Okay, just so you see what it's, yeah.
And I'm just saying is, I'm going to ask the board, I know this is very difficult to do. I realize this is an expensive project. We need to separate the Legion from the project. They were instrumental in receiving the grant for the project, but it's for the village hall. It's for the structure we have here. We have an emergency exit, which is falling apart and is dangerous. And there's comments that we have another emergency exit across from it. That one is also not in good shape as well. So I have to separate the Legion from that and look at the building. And we want to protect our asset. And it's the same thing with our homes. Unfortunately, sometimes we have to make repairs that are costly. So I realize this has come in well over what it was originally estimated in 2017. If we were able to do it back then, it would have been, the grant would almost equal the cost of the repair. Things have changed. To maintain this grant, we need to move forward or we're going to lose it. At the end of the day, this is a board decision. I would try to look at the back entrance. Is the back entrance to the hall, not just the American Legion.
The other, you said there's another back entrance as well?
There's a front entrance.
Right.
If you go downstairs, there's two.
Okay.
The problem is those stairs are deteriorating as well.
Would it be any easier or less expensive to fix those ones?
No, it's all in the gutting. I'm going to guess that's going to be even worse because it's going to impact the driveway.
I don't know.
I lost my building inspector. So I couldn't see. You know what I'm saying?
But something's evidently.
The stairs to the front.
They need you.
But the bottom line, the grant is for that back entrance. We
It's
can't.
that one specifically.
It was that, it was targeted
It's
for back
directed
there.
to that.
It was directed to make that a safer entrance.
It's okay, no, that's okay.
And
There's a-
the clarification is the grants are 100,000?
The grant was
And we
100,000.
would have to pay out of our budget 150,000 extra.
The quote right now is 218. If the board wants to have Jennifer change the design specs, remove the canopy, it could be 25 to 30,000 we could possibly take off. Again, it would have to go back out to bid.
I'd like to just give you a little more background on it, because, you're asking all the questions that we've all been asking.
Yes, yes.
Because the grant was received, how many years ago?
2017.
Okay, so, a while ago, right, so 6 years ago. So this $100,000 at that time, 6 years ago, would have covered that project, pretty much. Maybe we would have had to cough up another 10,000 or something, incidentals, whatever. But it really would have covered that project and really would have made it happen.
Correct.
It was not acted on. And so now here we are, years later with inflation and, different pricing. We put this out to bid several times, couldn't even get a response. And so now what would have been $100,000 has more than doubled to do this same project. So that's why we're in a situation, we have the grant, we're excited to have the grant, we want to use the grant, but now we have to come up with additional funds for this exit. Yeah.
Can I ask another question? The $100,000 that we would have to give to this out of our funds, are there other areas of the building that might be utilized for, that also need?
And I'm going to jump into this, this is going to come during the budget discussion, is come to the village's attention last few weeks that we have a pillar that is in dire shape. So I get it.
Two. I mean, we probably all, but, yeah, but
And I
that's the
think the
worst.
mayor and the building inspector can speak to that, but yes, this building, we have several projects that need to be done.
Yeah, the base of the pillars on the porch are rotting at the bottom. They're like sponge. Yeah, so, and there's also the windows, that's 53,000, we also, based on the fire that we had, that we were fortunate was not terribly damaging, it really underscored the need to have the electric redone in the entire building, have it assessed and redone. And that's a huge expense. So and this building is the people's building. It's a village asset.
It's also the upper level, also has to be looked at engineering wise for all our storage, all our heavy file cabinets.
The archives.
We're having problems. We need to have that reassessed.
So it sounds like there's a lot of
There
issues
is a
that we
lot
need to
of
take
issues.
care of. So I guess my question is, we need to strategize, which ones are most important and which ones are not as important. I mean, I know we have $100,000, I understand that, but then you also have to think about, down the line, we have a lot of other things that need attention, where we're gonna get that money.
Yeah, and that was actually part of a presentation that we made, that was last year, about, the needs of the building and where we were with the building. And there also was a substantial report, a building report done by Bureau Architecture 20 years ago, highlighting some of the very same things that are still issues that have not been addressed. And so we just put out a grant, or filled out a grant application to update that report, which hopefully will enable us to get funding to do some of these things in the building. I know, Justin, you wanted to add it.
Oh, no, I just noticed, related to the amount of money required to fix some of these critical issues, I noticed in the list that you sent around of monetizing some of those things, I was pretty surprised. I think the front was like 100,000 or more, 150.
Yeah, talking to Zach, Steve, and our best guesstimate, because that's what it is, until we get engineers out to take a look, and that's what I'm going to have to come to the board to ask, because now my concerns with those pillars, because that came after I found out this. The problem is we just had to move forward with this to see if we want to move forward. I need to get engineering in to take a look at that, because we could be having a critical meltdown there.
Yeah.
So, but by the time you start with that, and then you look at the stairs, you look at all the underpinnings, it's expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's,
Look at what are we paying for the restoration just for that, the eaves underneath, where the fire was, and it was about a 3-by-4 foot area.
yeah, it's almost $30,000 for the fire damage.
Yeah, but the restoration work just for that area on the exterior was like 11,000.
Yeah, that's like almost $12,000. The roof is like.
So let's go back to the space we're talking about. If that organization did not use that space, say they weren't there, they didn't use it anymore. What happens with, do we still need to fix those stairs?
Yes, you're going to.
Okay, right, I know, but I'm saying it doesn't have to be right now, because it's not, because there's another exit. I'm just trying to understand.
This process started almost a year ago, trying to get back to the engineering, save the grant, see if we can get it done, because, yes, we do have the seniors down there using the space. We want to make it as accessible as we can. It's not providing a handicap accessibility, it's just providing a safer.
It's safer.
And in the meantime, in the year, we had more of the steps crumbling. So it is a big concern. It's a concern for me, whether someone's in that space or not in that space.
Oh, sure.
And just, Steve, maybe you can speak to the stairs that currently exist. They're not up to code, am I correct? You were saying they don't comply?
No, they're not up to code.
Okay.
To have a second egress, do you have to have it handicap accessible as well?
We have handicap accessibility via the ramp and the chairlift. If this is tough.
Yeah.
All right, if I'm going to be truthfully honest, I would do it differently. I would fix the stairs. I would make the stairs a legal size. I would have a concrete set of steps put in. I wouldn't go crazy on the third exit for an egress or emergency. That's me. It's just, to me, I being a contractor my whole life, I would do that differently. I would just have somebody come in and put a concrete set of steps in, leave the door, it's a third exit emergency, and just make it so the stairs are viable if you needed to get them out of an emergency. And then keep reiterating to the people downstairs, it is not a usable entrance and exit. It is emergency only.
And it's posted that way as well.
It's
Yeah.
posted that way.
Yeah, I'm actually in agreement with you on that. I mean, especially when we got the first, wave of like, oh my gosh, it's $250,000 when we could be doing a road, or we could, But the issue, but here's the issue, you guys. We have a $100,000 grant that is directed specifically to how this turns out. SHPO also will have to weigh in again in terms of how this is done, I don't know. I mean, it's not
So let me ask you,
linear
if
solution.
say we adopted Steve's idea, do we lose the $100,000, or can we use it?
Oh, yeah, we'll lose
we
it.
do, because
Yeah.
it's not done the way we first applied.
That's what I'm saying,
It's to make it more accessible. The concern I have with Steve's way, and I know he's the building inspector, but speaking to Jennifer from Barrow, she indicated if we touch that or do whatever, we need to bring it to code. So.
Well, it would be brought to code no matter what.
Because the door space is not code.
What if it's just simply repair of existing versus replacement?
That, again, goes above my pay grade. At the end of the day, it might sound like I'm for this project, I'm for the building is what I'm for.
Yeah, no, we hear where you're going. Yeah, we all are.
And I understand the budget numbers.
Yeah.
So, I wish I had a magic wand and could, get them to just agree to repair the steps, but it's not necessarily gonna, I just need to know what the board wants.
Sure. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, Justin, you had another thought.
Yeah, I've expressed some thoughts on this in the past too. I appreciate everybody's ideas on it. I'm very concerned about the large scope of all the repairs around the village hall right now. And I personally just feel like this is too much to bite off before we've done some of the prioritization work. This may be the most important thing to do, but until we've actually taken the next step, which we're very, very close to with the budget, I don't feel like this is the responsible thing to do, to approve this scope with or without the canopy. So I won't belabor the point too much since I've mentioned it before, but at this juncture, I'm not in favor of it.
So we would forego the $100,000. I think part of what's driving that too is the $100,000 and the fact that, that's really where it started and it would have been done. And we're in a different place right now, so.
If I may.
Yes, please.
So one of the challenges with any project in the village, when you have money that's outstanding, it looks a little like a carrot. And you start to think, if I go down this road, I get this money and it's going to help us save money down the road. Well, not if you have a much smaller project. Or if instead of spending the 150 to get 100, you have that 150 going into reserves, and then down the road, when you have a project, you have that money for a different grant that might be available for a different project that needs to be done. And so we talk a lot about grants, and one of the things that Justin and I worked with Orthea and Zach on with regards to the budget was specifically funding reserves with the intent to build them up to where we have the money available for the different sorts of projects that might be eligible for different grants down the road that roll year over year over year. So while I don't necessarily want to say we should walk away from the 100,000, maybe there's some way to keep it in the dorm for a little bit longer. And if not, then so be it. But as far as where that money gets spent, I do think that there's priority projects that when we go through the long-term planning, that maybe we come back to this, but I don't want to make a decision today.
What I need from the board is, if you don't want to proceed with the bid because you put out the bid, you either need to accept the bid or reject the bid, and I need to notify the bidders. So
yeah, that's really where we are.
That's where I'm at.
Because they've
and
been
then
twice
I will
now.
take the actions with the dormitory. I will talk to them, see if I can keep life into this grant for a longer time. But I have a feeling, because they're anticipating a banning resolution, to be honest, because that's where we're at with them. And if that's not going to happen, I have a feeling it very well might drop off.
This is, I think, for a dormitory, this is a fairly extended period of time that they've ever held on to money.
I was stunned when they said it.
Yeah.
So,
So what you're asking is if we accept the bid.
Either accept it or reject it.
And by accepting the bid means that we get the work done that's going to cost us $100,000 out of our pocket, and then we get the $100,000 grant.
No, it'll cost us more.
It's
Or
gonna-
more.
It's gonna cost almost 200,000.
Okay.
You
And
would
then
have
we-
to
and then
pay
we
half
agree.
of it back. Then you-
Right,
yeah.
and if we do not approve or do we not accept the bid,
I
then
am
then
going
it's
to
dead.
talk to the dormitory, try to keep it alive for another year if possible, see how long they'll give us, if
Okay.
they'll give us any more time. And if we lose it, we lose it.
Yeah, oh, okay, hang on, Steve, you had a quick comment?
I'm not sure of the timeframe on the $100,000, but is there enough time left on the timeline for that you could maybe get a hold of smaller masonry contractors to do a set of stairs versus going after the big firms?
Yeah, you and I, we were talking about that the other day.
$200,000.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you might get a good mason that would come in here and build you a set of concrete steps and stay within a $100,000 budget.
But again, okay, Dorothea, speak to how the grant is being applied. There's guidelines.
There was guidelines with the grant.
Yeah.
It had to be a safe entrance. It wasn't just repairing the steps. It had to fix the door, it had to make it, the door to be fixed had to be lowered. There's a lot of technicals.
Yeah, there's more engineering involved.
Jennifer can explain the technicalities
Yeah.
of all that.
Yeah, and if you've seen the
Here.
plans, you can see it on the plans, why it's changed.
But the bottom line with that is, we put the bid out 3 times. It went to
Yeah.
builders, it went in the paper, you know, we are lucky we got the people we got for the walkthrough.
Yeah,
So
we had 2.
we had 2. We went from none to 2, and we were worried we weren't getting that.
Yep.
So,
And then when they were asked to
Good
lower the bid, 1 walked away.
yes.
So now we're down to 1.
Now we're down to 1.
Yep. Yeah, that's just the environment out there.
You know, anybody could have bid,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
You know, and honestly, if we go back out to repair the stairs again, we're gonna have to put that out a bid, because the cost of that repair is still gonna be significant enough, it's gonna cost us to put it out to bid. So it's not gonna be a matter of just finding a masonry person and having them coming in. It's still gonna be steps involved for the steps. We do have a couple of public comments. Art Pierce, 70 State Street, can one not reapply for the grant for a new grant? Has the board sought consultants review the bigger picture and advise the board on the substantial of a number of opinions, e.g. repair to code versus reconstruction? Why was the grant money not taken advantage of sometime over the past 6 years? We have talked to Jennifer Aarons from Barrow. This is following the grants. The grant, as I said, I'll try to keep it alive. The village just didn't have the money in the fund balance to proceed without
Yeah,
taking
years
out
ago,
that,
yep.
to do the project.
Yep. Zach, you just had a quick comment, and then I'll bring it back to the board.
Yes, I was just going to add that anytime you use state funds for anything, you have to bring it up to state standard. So it's not just going and repairing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a
The
one and
project would
done.
have to be looked at as a whole and brought up to a standard that the state would be satisfied
If we use state funds.
Yep.
So the grant.
Yeah, it's a grant,
Right,
yeah.
you're using the grant.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's part of the guidelines for it, yeah. And then Justin, you have a
Yeah,
comment?
I guess just related to not using the grant for 6 years, including times when it would have been more cost effective, probably before inflation and some of the pressure on construction came in. So looking forward to later on in this meeting, part of the budget proposal is being able to take advantage of opportunities like that.
Mhm.
And it's too bad that we didn't take advantage of this one when the time would have been
Right.
a little bit better.
Yeah,
but
We had
exactly.
no reserve.
And
Right.
to speak on that regard, and we talked before, every $10,000 on the budget is 1%. So if we were to do the repair at this $120,000 cost, $10,000 a year for 12 years and finance it, that's a 1% increase to the budget, persistent for at least those 12 years. And to pay for it in this year's budget, it would be close to a 12% increase just for this year to be able to pay for it.
It was a substantial increase.
So I guess, go ahead.
No.
I was just going to go to a motion.
Oh, well, hang on. I just also want to say that, we're looking at that 6-year period where nothing happened with $100,000. And we also had almost $500,000 tied up already in those reserves that had, now we're repurposing. Now, we're able to, Jeff and Dorothy are working on creating the language so we can access $500,000 that's been tied up literally for decades. So, at least we're trying to go in the right direction, but there's some missed opportunities, I think, that we're all acknowledging.
Yes, I mean, we were very hopeful this would come in less, and
Right.
It's not going to.
Yeah, we are where we are, frankly.
I guess on that note, I will go ahead and make a motion that we reject the bids.
Is that your motion you were going to make?
I'll second
it. He was going to make a motion, you know.
Oh,
Step on your toes.
All right, trustee, wow, you put a nameplate.
And there can be more discussion.
Trustee Marshall.
Okay.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Yeah, that's me, yeah.
Motion passed.
At this point, yeah.
No, just understand, I'm for the building, I'm not,
Yeah.
We completely
Oh, we understand. I think we're all for the building. I mean, if this was my house, I would have to make that decision
It's
as well.
devastating,
And I
it's
just couldn't take
devastating.
the 100,000, I don't
What
have
we
it.
need to do and not.
If we had more latitude with the 100,000, it would be great.
Yeah.
We do not.
We don't have it.
Right.
Another
We're-
component.
But I will continue if the board likes, continue to suck up to the dormitory and try
Might
to
as
keep
well.
the grant.
If I could ask another question. So Dorothea, you mentioned at one point before, when we identify something as a potential hazard, if we don't actively move to repair it to a certain standard, there may be additional risk with regards to insurance, P&C, liability. Is it appropriate to consider how to move forward with that?
Jeff, do you want to speak to that?
To me, it's,
I can't, you're insured against risk.
Yeah.
In a lawsuit where, if somebody was injured, the lawsuit would be, did you know? So that would go more to your share of the damages. It could still be covered by insurance, but your insurance rates might go up to get that claim.
Would it be appropriate to have a higher liability than we do now if we've identified the risk, or just?
You got to talk to the insurance guy about that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you're.
I guess what I
I'm
would
guessing.
say, what we need to do is look at both stairways that are a concern and see if there's some immediate changes we can make to ensure a little bit more safety.
And while we're talking about stairways and railings, Steve, I know you identified, the railings coming up to the front porch are just about ready to fall over.
You're looking at trouble in the front rails, the one on the right or left.
But these are mistake that's
I am.
And not coming off the building right now, the one on the other side, the top is coming off. If somebody grabs it wrong, they're gonna pinch their hand between the top and the bottom. Those are both liabilities right now.
I'm dealing with the builder with the back repair.
Restoration, yeah.
Restoration at $12,000, as I choke on that. Would the board be okay me speaking to him, just getting an estimate for the necessary, looking at the pillars? He does historic, right?
Yeah, he was recommended by Bureau. He's
Yes.
a big deal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just so we get an idea, so we can
Yeah.
start putting a number to that
And
problem.
you know what, let's see if he also knows somebody who does wrought iron restoration.
Yeah.
Because, he's in that business. That would be great.
Yeah.
To start getting this information.
So not to throw Trustee Marshall's thought out the window, I think you should sit down with your insurance guy and have that conversation.
Yeah,
So that would be the guy to talk to.
yeah.
Should we have a part of a future board meeting, invite him in to talk publicly, or is this a?
It seems to me that you could appoint one or two trustees to sit down and talk to him, and then
That's what I'm thinking with
bring it back
Dorothea.
to the board.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to.
Yeah,
Gary's always
Probably
been
talk
talking
with
with
you.
the board.
How about you and Dave, we can
Yeah.
kind of follow up on that and then report back to the board?
I'm PNC licensed, so I have a good understanding.
Okay,
Although I
great.
don't actually do PNC work.
Okay, so you're in the loop.
I'm in the
Okay,
loop.
Okay,
I
yes,
just
Jeff.
wanted to share an experience that we had with a person who took a fall on Canal Court private property, and we were kind of filling on a lawsuit for that. The attorney had mentioned that as long as there's some sort of movement forward towards making repairs, that would also serve as showing that you are.
Showing intention.
responsible.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah, thanks for that.
Dave's question really goes to insurability and are we insured and
Mhm.
are we insured enough?
It's definitely worth pursuing. Yeah, for sure. Okay, you know what, I'm thinking, why don't we just have just a quick recess, just so people can maybe stretch a bit, because we've been sitting for a little while, maybe just a 10-minute recess, okay? I make a motion to have a 10-minute recess. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Lickett?
Aye.
Trustee Coe?
No,
Trustee Marshall?
just saying. Go for it.
Too long.
Aye.
Now we all have to do yoga.
Mayor Plummer?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay, just 10 minutes, come on.
I know, I know it's gonna pass.
It's
Come
10
on, we
minutes.
gotta get some fun here.
Okay, so 8:30 Okay, quiet, please. I make a motion to bring the meeting to order.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Trustee Marshall?
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev?
Aye.
Trustee Coe?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, next up, the village budget for 2023, 2024. Okay. So we have an adopted tentative budget. And then at the last meeting, Trustee Lightgev and Marshall wanted to take another look and look at some amendments to the budget. So I guess we can open with what your thoughts were.
Real quick, I just want to point out, in the proposed budget amendment sheet for the adoption, I had a mistake in the tax rate. It would be $5.05 per thousand, not $5.84. I misread my data, and again, changing things too many times.
That's usually 504, not 580.
505.
505.
505.
But the percentage was correct.
The percentage was right. It was,
And all the dollars are right.
the dollars are right. It
That
was,
plug was the only plug that didn't get it.
that was it.
All right,
I
so
promise.
505.
Right at the top.
Yep, got it.
Okay. I just wanted to make that clear and come up front with the board.
Is there anything else you want to just dive into, or, I mean, we have the budget that was proposed and had been adopted as the tentative budget.
Correct.
And so I think, where we are now, you want to make some changes. And so I think that's probably where we should start and then follow with discussion. Okay? So it's all yours. It's your narrative. It's your budget world.
Either way, Dave, do you want to go ahead, or?
I just have a couple clarifying questions, but if you'd like to do.
Go ahead, why don't you?
So the first question is, the process on the budget, we have a tentative budget, we have an amended budget that we worked on with Dorothea. With regards to the approval process, Jeff, this is a question for you. Do you just adopt the budget as presented? Do you adopt the tentative and then adopt the budget in the same meeting? How does that work?
No, you've already adopted the tentative budget. And Dorothea is probably more familiar with the budgeting process than I am, but if you want to make changes to the tentative budget, you can do that by resolution.
And then at the same time, in the same meeting, you adopt the budget.
Right, well, I mean, you would say we are modifying, the motion would be to modify the tentative budget by doing blank.
And then would we, a follow-up question would be, if we adopt the tentative budget tonight, could we at another meeting, we have to do it all at once?
You've already adopted the tentative.
Well, okay, I see what you're saying. So it
So
would
you
be,
already adopted
yes,
it.
I see what we're saying.
Amendment.
So it's
further-
amending it or not?
Right, without further action,
Without, okay,
it becomes the budget.
got you.
The trustees may, by resolution, modify the tentative
What
budget.
is, okay.
And that's what this is. This is the modification.
Well, we're discussing that, we don't.
I'm not involved in that at all.
Well, I'm just saying, this is the discussion of the modifications.
Can
if we were
I
to-
jump in real quick?
Yeah, help us out here.
Correct. You make a resolution to amend the tentative budget. After you make that resolution, then you're wanting to make a motion to adopt it as the final budget. That makes it very clear what you are doing. When you don't make like if you're good with the tentative budget moving forward, you'd still want to adopt it as the final budget. That way it's just clear it was final.
Two motions.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but I guess it's still, I have this question, maybe in a different way. So if we adopt just the tentative budget as the final budget and we look at these amendments, would we be able to do additional work going forward?
You can do additional work going forward. You can always, the budget isn't stagnant. The only couple pieces of it are stagnant, is the ability to go to collect additional property tax.
Property tax.
Once you indicate your property tax level, you can't issue out another bill and
Sure.
say, sorry, we need more. And the same thing with the sewer rate. You could reevaluate your sewer rate depending on things. That's has a little more leeway. I haven't done it. It's probably best not to do that.
Yeah,
I would
I've never
suggest
heard of that.
Adopting a rate, keeping it for a year is always the safe bet. The numbers shifting from lines to lines, yes, you can do that. We do that already.
And looking at the additional reserves and things that.
Right, you can make
Okay.
budget modifications.
Sure.
That's
Okay.
one of the things I'm hoping, once we get the reserves established, as we want, I want to come to the board and I want to say, I would like the board to make a resolution to take some money from fund balance to fund a reserve. You're making a budget modification. Or like we did with the chair, the anticipation, maybe we're going to need more money out of our fund balance to cover the cost of replacing the handicap chair. That's a budget modification. So that's what you do all year long. You're technically updating your budget, changing, you're working with your budget. It's not stagnant.
With regards to any funds that would be appropriated to a reserve line, we talked a little bit about reserves. You had referenced something about debt reserves versus specific reserves. And I'd also heard that if we do allocate funds to reserves, the time period by which we would have to identify the language of those reserves can occur over the course of the year. It doesn't have to occur in advance.
No, it doesn't have to occur right now. You can anticipate.
You're not going to actually fund the reserve, though.
No, we're just anticipating the possibility of funding a reserve, and you're putting it into that tentative line during the year. And honestly, I wouldn't fund the reserve unless everything looks great during the year. I would hold off until like now, to shift whatever to put the reserve money in place, because you want to see how your income comes in. So you have to always keep an eye on that. But
and with regards to the amount appropriated to a reserve, very similar to what we've heard in the past about the transfers, could potentially, on a month-over-month basis, look to move money from a dedicated reserve to something else on the general, not in the reserve. Okay, this is good. This is where I'm going.
Well, if it's in the budget.
Well, hold on. If it's in the reserve.
No, not in the reserve, but budgeted for the reserve.
Right now, if it's sitting in the budget, actually, this just happened 2 years ago. We had tentatively had some money in the budget to go into reserves. Those reserves didn't exist and weren't established. So I recommended to the board, since they didn't exist, we need to move them, say, to contingency or be used elsewhere because they weren't an existing reserve. I think where Jeff is going to go, if you actually put it into the reserve, there's a whole bigger picture.
Make it complicated or may not be complicated.
Yeah.
Depending on what the reserve is, how you funded it on the front end.
And if you could speak briefly to reserves. So one of the ideas that we'll talk about is making sure that we have a long-term capital plan, both for the DPW, for infrastructure, for building improvements, for parks and recreation, though that's not actually specifically line item, it's a good idea. And if at the end of a year, we have the funds to put into reserves because we budgeted for them, so hopefully they are there. Once they get into those reserves, can the funds in those reserves be used for either debt service on debt acquired to pay for things or to pay cash? The reserves can be crafted in a way where it could be for debt service or for
No, it's got to be a specific reserve. You can do a debt reserve. You can do a capital, specific capital reserve. You can do a general capital reserve. And the rules of it, and you do a repair reserve. How they go in and how they come out, the rules are different for each of those reserves.
Okay.
So can you just, I want you to elaborate a little bit on extracting the money from the reserve, because I think that's important, whether it's like through a referendum.
Well, it depends.
But just to.
It depends on the type of reserve.
Right.
Basically, except for the debt reserve, think about, you're going to need public sign off either going in or coming out. And I'm not, and then without actually sitting down with my list of my cheat sheet, I can't tell you which ones are which.
Public sign off meaning a public vote?
No. It means probably going in subject to a permissive referendum or coming out subject to a permissive referendum. Permissive referendum means that you have moved, you have passed a resolution to move the monies in or to move the monies out, and that is subject to somebody filing a petition for a referendum. If they don't file a petition for a referendum within the required time frame, then you're good, you're done. But if somebody files a petition and there's requirements about how many people must have signed the petition, then
percentage of residents.
Then you have your referendum.
So let me create a case and scenario. We have a project for a road for $750,000. And we want to be able to save for it to do the road. Are you suggesting that any infrastructure reserve that gets funded specific to a road in order to get the money out down the road would be subject to a permissive referendum?
I don't know the answer to that. It might be. I mean, it's either going to be subject to a referendum going in or a referendum coming out. So it may be that when you do the resolution, setting up the reserve, moving money into it, that is subject to a permissive referendum.
Okay.
And I'm guessing with that kind, it sounds like a type capital improvement. So if it's not a specific capital improvement, it's a type. Then I'm pretty sure I'm correct in saying that it's a permissive referendum to go in.
Okay.
And when we were talking about the reserves that we were repurposing, those are the types of reserves that we were looking at for, essentially to repurpose. So it was like infrastructure,
vehicle equipment, vehicle equipment repair, building repair.
Sort of generalized.
It's very
enough
generalized.
So we could extract as needed
For
that
whatever project.
Yeah.
The specific capital is the one that's a little tricky because you have to have a maximum amount that you expect to spend when you set up the reserve. Like we put, was it $300,000 in that catastrophic sewer failure? 300,000 is roughly the price to replace one of those segments.
Was that subject to a permissive referendum at the time it was funded?
Yes, I believe that. I mean, look, I didn't bring my reserve funds.
Yeah,
sure.
They're all different categories, they're each different.
But what you're essentially saying is, if the village would like to save for the future, either to finance a capital project just on hand, or to have funds available for grants, or to buy trucks rather than lease them, it would, when we fund these reserves, other than debt reserves, that's going to be subject to a permissive referendum.
It depends on the kind of reserve.
Okay.
So the rules for specific capital are different than the rules for type capital. And I'm pretty sure the specific capital is subject to a referendum going in. Type capital might be subject to a specific referendum going out.
So I think the way we've talked on this has largely been type capital, right? It's a broad band of funding that we dedicate to infrastructure, building improvements, DPW, right, roads, that's infrastructure. And the idea would be to take a lot of line items that were previously embedded in different components of the budget that were being sort of done, ad hoc is probably too strong a word, but on a year-over-year basis, it was how can we put this one in here? How can we get this one in there? And trying to fund it at the end. And our goal long-term, I think from a village perspective, is to create a capital plan, create a long-term spending goal plan that much of the material might be available to us already. But the idea is to put it on paper, adopt a resolution by the board for a long-term capital plan, anything that isn't maintenance or ongoing services of persistency. And this could be improvements to the building, it could be improvements to roads, it could be things along those lines, investments in the arboretum, whatever it may be, dedicated into type capital reserves. At that point, we work on this long-term plan, and then we go into the budget or go into the reserves and start pulling the funding out for these things. And by doing it, we can look ahead rather than year over year. Zach can provide us with a budget for the DPW over the next 5 to 10 years. We can look at improvements to the roads and the infrastructure or the village hall. So what this budget is trying to do is it's trying to take these big wild swings year over year in different elements of the budget, stealing those big projects out and putting them into a reserve that, at least the way we've calculated it right now, is essentially the cost of financing it over 5, 10, and 15 years, depending on the type of reserve that we're building. So this budget currently has essentially $1 million to $1.3 million. I think it's 1.35 is what it ended up working out to be, and you've identified it in there.
Yeah.
Where the amount of reserve funding was essentially the debt service on those projects. Now, we're not, in fact, suggesting those projects absolutely. What we're saying is we're funding reserves with the idea of doing the long-term capital plan, doing the hard work, presenting it to the public, adopting it through resolution, much like we've done with the active transportation plan, the local waterfront revitalization plan, comprehensive plan, have a long-term capital plan. And then when we adopt that, we essentially have to find the revenue to fund that over time. And then, Zach, when you need a new truck or a new piece of equipment, right, we prioritize all these things and we spread it out over 10 or 15 years, and we're looking beyond that, and then we're financing it as we go, rather than needing to pitch for the new truck or the planer, right? The hope is we can get buy-in from each of the different areas of service, that when we put it into reserves, it's only coming out for items that were specifically identified in the long-term capital plan. That's why we're building the reserves. So once we put it in, have the reserves have contingency language that essentially says any money coming out of this has been identified in a long-term capital plan and voted and approved and adopted by the board. Any changes to the long-term capital plan, adopted and approved, and then those items come out accordingly. That way we're not stuck in trying to finance year over year after year. It also allows the entire rest of the budget to be able to look at line items like lighting or electrics or snowplow and say, where have we been over the last 5 to 10 years? On a consistent basis, what's the cost look like? Rather than having to go up 15% one year and down 5 the next because you needed a new truck, right? The truck is embedded in the long-term plan, embedded in the reserves. So you know we're building to get it, we know we're going to bond to get it, whatever it may be, right? But it's embedded in that flow, that capital flow. This particular budget, just to highlight, the total appropriations between what we presented and what the tentative budget had previously adopted is in fact lower by 1.8% in total. So sewer plus general, the total appropriations is lower than it was in the tentative budget. Now, the tax increase, about 7.5% on the general, it was previously lower because we had appropriated more funds to the sewer. Now, based on the sewer, when we considered all the appropriations, the cost of labor and the cost of the actual materials to run the sewer was less than, I think it was 40% of the total budget. And I would generally think the sewer should be a higher percentage of labor and parts and work rather than administrative, though I recognize the cost of that administrative responsibility. So what we would move to do is say, this year, the village board adopt an allocation to the sewer and talk about it rather than having it just be as it was in the tentative budget, go through, adopt a specific motion, highlight the things that we agree on, the things that we don't, and then make sure the sewer is absorbing the right type of costs. So when we look at the appropriations, while the general, the property tax base is going up about 7.5%, the sewer rate's only going up 6%, where I think in the prior budget it was a higher number. Right, so the total cost of revenue generated in the village to cover the budget as we proposed is in fact, again, less than it was in the tentative budget.
Okay, so, yeah, I'm sorry, you can say something?
I could, but you can also.
No, go ahead.
Yeah,
You guys are on a roll.
I'll be brief. I think that Trustee Marshall explained some of the mechanics of this pretty well. I know that everyone here is probably aware that I can be pretty critical of things if I have an issue with them. I voted against Dorothea doesn't agree, thank you. I voted against the budget for the last couple of years because I had some reservations about the way the process was conducted. And just sitting through this meeting, I've heard some comments about things that are coming up. You know, we just find out the pillars on the porch are deteriorating. We find out the front railing is deteriorating, and all this is going to cost money. To me, the way that we've approached this is a little bit too reactive rather than being proactive.
Well, I think for years, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, literally decades.
Yeah. This is not a new thing.
This isn't 5 minutes ago, folks.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. And so I think that I've got some agreement here. And I think that, well, there has been some effort towards planning. And I especially want to acknowledge Trustee Galusha's efforts to create a DPW vehicle inventory to help to organize some of the street expenses, that kind of thing. What this is about is about becoming more proactive rather than reactive by taking those kinds of plans, extending them, and then having them adopted by the board, so that that drives the budget process, rather than, kind of giving people a wish list to complete, which is really kind of a needs list. I've heard some people mention. And by doing that, I believe that we can really be in a lot more control and seize opportunities when they come up, like these grants for different projects. There's a lot more predictability. So that's the emphasis in kind of a hand-waving way of the reason that I support the amended tentative budget. I do have some concerns about the preliminary, the adopted tentative budget at this point, especially some of the appropriations towards sewer. I agree that the sewer should be a self-sustaining cost center. I'm worried about shifting some of those costs before the board has a chance to assess those. So the amended tentative budget resolves those issues for me by putting those costs back in the general until we have time to go through and rigorously justify the changes. So I think it's I'll just stick with Dave's summary of some of the mechanics and some of the percentages, but I'm actually very excited about the amended tentative budget, and I think it represents a great direction for financial sustainability of the village.
And I might add to that, with regards to the publicly available material, one of the components of it that is noted is the village projects to be deaded. And there's a list of projects there that include the planer, radar signs, the truck, HVAC, and things of that nature. These are big projects that weren't appropriate in our view to be placed on the standard general budget, but instead be funded through reserves. So our approach would be to create the reserve language that would allow us to pull it out based on board resolution for specific items, be they what you see in front of you or otherwise, knowing though that we're funding these reserves specific to the type. So one of the challenges might be, again, Zach, it's kind of readily available, like right in front of me, so I keep going to the DPW, but you guys have a capital plan that if it's embedded in the long-term plan, we can adopt it and think, okay, over very different years, what do you guys need the most? What's the most important thing to do? Is it the building? Is it the bathroom? Is it the truck? Is it the planer, right? We have infrastructure that needs to be worked on, roads all over the place and sidewalks, right? These are things that when we start listing all these and we start recognizing the costs of them, this budget doesn't do that yet. This budget simply has some debt embedded for some items that we thought might come up as priority items this year. But the real challenge is creating all of these items, prioritizing them, and then funding them. And this is just the beginning of that funding process. There might need to be more capital. And so if we go back to residents and say, hey, we need another $1 million in reserves over the next 5 years, that's $200,000 a year going into reserves. Right? That's a big challenge. That's a big ask. But if we don't have the funding otherwise, so by working through this mechanism, funding type reserves, identifying priority projects in the long-term capital plan, and then motioning it out, making motions by the board to pull the money out, it makes sure that that capital goes with things that we need over the long term. So that was the primary objective of the adjusted budget, the way that we worked on it.
Okay, Lisa, do you have any thoughts? I love the ideas. I really do. I think it's an opportunity for us to really have a much larger long-term picture, all for that. But I also really see where we are with the here and now of needs, and what's in the budget, what has been put in the budget are the priorities that have been identified at this point. Can we do more? Can we do the whole long term? I'm right there with you. I really am. One of the things that I think that we're really, really up against is that we are looking at things that are coming out of the budget or things that these things have been deferred for so long that to start, how do we address some of these things that are really needed now, and I think when we take a look at least at the adopted tentative budget, we at least still have these pieces in place to address. For example, the retaining wall has been removed from the budget. That could collapse and.
I'm sorry, it actually wasn't. So it's noted on the sheet that it was removed from the budget, but in fact, when you look at the.
You're going to bond it out?
When you look at the infrastructure reserve funding, the
Right.
number there is specific to a 15-year bond at 2 point.
We put it at,
Right?
you requested 3%.
3%. So what you have in the proposed budget is in fact all of these items.
So we're going to bond it 1,046,000.
Well, we're not making the decision today.
No, but I'm just talking
we're
through it.
funding-
I'm just talking,
Yep.
if I can just, okay, thank you. Because there's so much need that has been deferred. And that's the concern that I have in terms of long-term timeframes. Every single thing I'm looking at has been deferred for years. And I know you're looking at me, Zach, like you're saying, yeah, all of these things. Like, in fact, the HVAC system was identified, I think, 18 years ago? I mean, Steve, can you speak to the HVAC system? No, he's reading the book titles.
That's in the budget, though.
No, hang on, but I just want you to talk about the HVAC system for a second, because we felt it needed to be replaced this year.
They are dinosaurs, they cycle off and on way too often, they're oil burners, they're horribly.
They're gonna go.
efficient. You're very lucky they're so long.
Yeah.
The amount of rust
Yeah.
that's in those systems is ridiculous.
So I understand where you're going with this, but I just want to make sure that we're not in the interest of getting this big long-term plan, not addressing these things right up front. I'm concerned about that. And I know, so when you say it's not really out of the budget, it's going to be debted, so we're looking at this number of incurring the debt.
There's 138,000
Yeah,
that is identified in reserves that begins the process of building it.
right, and we talked
Whether or
about
not
that.
it goes for debt service
Mhm.
or it goes to type capital, right? Can we craft language that allows for type capital that is put into reserves to come out of reserves to cover debt?
I don't think so. They gotta be specific.
It has to be very specific.
It's gotta be for the
Debt.
purchase of,
The X,
purchase of the type capital.
right.
The purchase of, now, let's say it's a vehicle, you'd have to have, so if it goes into type capital reserves specific to vehicles.
There's one for a flush truck.
Sure.
That's what we have.
You wouldn't be able to
No,
finance
if you
it.
did, no,
and
if you
use-
did, let me say, if you did a flush truck, if you said this is for the purchase of a flush truck, that's a specific capital improvement. And you would have to cap it.
Which we have.
Right, and, I mean, then.
No,
then
and
you're-
I get, if this board said, and I'm really gonna get off the rails, you say you wanna buy a fire truck.
Sure.
Let's not do something we really don't need.
Yeah.
You're gonna do a fire truck. Anything outside of a fire truck can't be purchased.
It has to be exactly that.
That's why we didn't want that specific.
Building improvement,
Right.
gotta spend it on building.
Right.
Doing a vehicle,
We said-
general vehicle.
Yeah, right.
Allows us to pull out for any vehicle.
Which is the conversation that we had this past fall about how we wanted to repurpose those reserves with that, the.
Specific general direction.
Yes,
Yes.
so it's like.
Because we didn't want to be.
DPW equipment.
Yep.
Which enables us to have that flexibility, but we still have that category. Am I correct, Jeff, in how I'm sort
Yeah,
of
but
saying?
you're adding a little wrinkle here.
Oh, I probably am.
No, not you.
Oh.
Oh, don't look at me.
No, not you.
Okay.
The issue is that you got two separate tax bases. Presumably, when you buy that vehicle, it's going to be a shared use.
Correct.
Right.
So you have to set up a capital reserve, whatever capital reserve you're setting up in both funds.
Correct, and that's the reserve list
Okay.
we gave to the board.
Right.
Is kind of a mirror, because if you need it in general, you very well might need it in sewer. So we kind of mirrored them to work together.
So then let me say this slightly differently. We have capital reserves that we want to fund to be able to purchase things and improve buildings. But what you're suggesting is whatever we put to those reserves can't be the payment for debt required to do that.
Unless it's in a debt reserve.
Unless we have a debt reserve. Now, can you have a debt reserve specific to equipment and vehicle? Okay. You can have a debt reserve specific to technology, but what happens if you don't assume debt to purchase your technology, but your reserve gets big enough to just buy it outright?
Well,
You take on debt for a day.
transfer capital reserves.
You can repurpose it.
They have to be, yeah, but they have to go to another capital reserve that serves the same tax base.
Okay.
It always has to stay within the tax base. Yeah.
So then what I'm trying to get at is in this tentative budget, we've identified $139,000 of reserve funding, which if you looked at based on the rates that we had used, it's close to $1.35 million spread over 5, 10, 15 years, depending on what it was for. Specifically, equipment and vehicles were 5 years, same with technology. Building repair, I think, was over 10, and the infrastructure reserve was over 15. For example, in the infrastructure reserve, there's $86,682. That was the payment on $1.046 million of indebtedness. Now, the way I would propose that we move forward with the budget is we have these reserves be debt reserves, other than perhaps the technology reserve, which could be a type
That was
reserve.
the technology you guys requested. What I did is for computing, but I did an amount or a certain amount of time.
Now, if we have debt reserves instead of just type reserves, if we were to assume debt of different lengths for different amounts, we then just simply take that and allocate it for what we see fit, right?
To what?
For example, if we fund an equipment debt reserve, and we fund a building repair debt reserve, and an infrastructure debt reserve, then those funds can only be used for debt assumed to do that particular type.
I think you can have a debt reserve. Just a debt.
Just a
reserve.
general debt reserve
Just
for
a general
tax
debt
base.
Okay, I wasn't really prepared for this kind of
Yeah.
discussion.
Yeah, it's okay.
I know, it's
I'm
a lot
getting a
of
lot of
questions. I mean, you know,
So,
Dave, I'm sorry.
finish up.
I mean,
And then,
so to really get great answers, you're not going to get them from me tonight.
Okay.
you know, this is, I mean, you know, this is a way that we can move forward, certainly. I mean, I think this is a great discussion. Zach, and then I have a question.
If the intent was to fund the debt reserves more than what the anticipated expenditures out of those reserves would be to eventually get out of having a debt reserve and actually just have a reserve.
Yes. In addition, the idea of having type reserves or type debt reserves, or whatever the exact language would be, the way we're trying to allocate the budget this year in the proposed amendments is specific to the anticipated cost that was in the prior tentative budget. So what we weren't doing with this budget was stripping things out as much as we were ensuring that they were embedded in reserve funding for debt if we choose to, after the long-term capital plan is adopted, move forward. Now, some things could go forward faster than others. For example, South and Wood.
Better go.
So we know, we just hired last week and the week before Donegan and Associates to do work.
Nope,
you did not.
No, you voted it down. You guys voted.
No, you didn't vote.
Well,
you
deferred
tabled it till we did the budget
until we did the
because
budget.
you didn't want to give me the 3,000.
Okay, so let's assume.
Because you do want to give $3,000 to have them move forward to actually.
Yeah,
put
I
the
can't
numbers
give
that
you the
we know.
numbers.
Right.
So where we are
For
now.
$3,000, that's
so
a good investment.
Where we are now is we're thinking with an adopted budget that allocates reserve funding that isn't able to be stripped away and used for other things. The confidence that I have in hiring Donegan Associates, knowing that we're funding payments for the indebtedness we're assuming we'll have, my confidence in approving the Donegan bid is significantly higher, knowing that we've accounted for the principal and interest payments on close to $1.35 million that's in here. And that's essentially the entirety of the list that you see at the end of the proposed amendments.
The already stripped down list.
Yes, so this.
It's very stripped down, it's beyond.
Yeah, so this goes to, again, what you see in front of you is only 1.8 percent lower than the earlier tentative budget. The goal would be to build the long-term plan, identify all the items that we need, and then have the ability to go back to the public and say, this is all we need. We've prioritized it, we've adopted it, it's approved. We got to fund it now, and we got to fund it with additional reserve funding in the next year's budget and then beyond. Or at the end of the year, if we have extra funds in the general, we can push it to these reserves to continue to build on that. So you don't have to pitch it every single year. We just have the adopted schedule and we're funding.
Yeah, I think what you're pitching is the same thing as what we were putting together, just in a different way, rather than the upfront would be covered by debt, with the intention of paying that debt off, or the money that would be used to pay that debt off, put into reserve.
Well,
am I saying that right?
A little bit. I think what we were trying to do is projects that could be covered within budget, reasonably cover them and do them. Anything that we realize is a bigger debt picture, like Southwood, let's just go there. It just can't be encompassed in the budget. We knew that was a debt, so we're going to have to ban that. So I think we are identifying big ticket items. It goes to me where there's good debt and bad debt. To me, a road is good debt. Do I think the HVAC, if it's accompanied with a major building restoration, I think that's good debt. Just the furnaces down at DPW, I don't think that's good debt. I think it should be covered out of your general budget because it's a maintenance issue. That's where I kind of throw things. I try to put the amount in my head. If it can be covered within the budget and it's not a huge explosion, cover it within the budget. If it's going to be something huge, then that to me is good debt. You look at the amount of time, like a road will last 30 years. To me, it's not just the residents today benefiting, it's the residents.
And it exceeds the span of the debt.
Correct.
The bond. And anything that, that's really what you look at. That's why, like a road's going to last, longer than like a 20-year bond.
Correct. And our fund balance has been in the last few years in a steady uptick. We've been recovering, which is fabulous. So I'm happy to have that ability to look at the budget and the finances and go, you know what, I think at the end of the year, I really want the board to push some of the fund balance into these reserves once we get them established. I think that's what we've been shooting for a very long time.
So we're starting to get there.
Having a minimum.
Yeah.
We're going to start with whatever's left over.
Keep seeding things.
Right, and our goal, I think at the time, I think it's even in the tentative budget, it was around 136,000 a year being budgeted to go into reserves, because we feel that's an appropriate amount to start getting those reserves where they're needed. We feel some things needed 10 years to build up, some things needed 15, depending on what it is, looking at it and the need. But it's hard to establish reserves plus take care of the current needs.
And the needs have built up because things have been deferred, because we've been having these discussions. So I think we're really in this balancing it. I actually think we're all on a same page here.
It's a little bit
It's how to.
Two slightly different methods.
Yeah, two different methods, yeah, right.
But we are in a good place because we're able to have this conversation as to where years.
We're finally having this conversation.
There was no conversation to be had because there were no funds to be.
It couldn't be done.
I've never heard a conversation like this.
Yeah.
No, since I've been here.
Yeah.
10 years.
I would agree. So this is excellent.
Conversations that we've been able to be had.
Yep. Oh, yeah, Justin.
I guess when I'm looking at the proposed tentative budget, I'm trying to use the correct terms here, what I really like about it is that, right now I feel like we're still very much in firefighting mode. There's a cost, we immediately address it. And I think that the adopted tentative budget might do better at giving us satisfaction of addressing those things right now. And I guess my thinking is that, and what I'm excited about in the tentative budget, and everybody knows how much of a nerd I am right now since I get excited about budgets, but the really neat thing is that, it basically takes a little bit of a step back, which is a little bit uncomfortable because we're restoring the centrality of planning, saying that we are going to take a sorted list and figure out what we're banning based on that, what we're getting short-term loans on based on that. But I think ultimately that's the only way that you can get out of firefighting mode is by taking a step back, and this gives us that space.
You know, the other thing too, and this was part of this discussion we've had about, reserves is, grants really also are a way forward for us. And I see you took grant writing out of the budget. And I'm concerned about that, but I would think that, we've talked about this, and Jeff, I think you weighed in as well. We could certainly, typically with grants, especially state funding, you have to front the money.
Mhm.
And so we could take the money out of a reserve. Say we need a grant for, well, I'll just say a truck again or something. And we have, an equipment fund reserve. We could take that money out, front the grant, and then when we're repaid, we just refund it back into the reserve. That's something that we would want to be making sure that we're staying up. So, I think that piece of the grant writing being taken out, we're missing now that component of how do we move forward.
Yeah.
I mean, the grant cycles, we've started a separate grants calendar. And right now, the money is out there, and I've been talking with other mayors and other municipalities. The money isn't going to be out there in the same way, probably after the next couple of years. It's right, we have like a 2-year window here, potentially, maybe 3. And it may dry up. That's an issue. Yeah, excuse me 1 second, Zach, and then Lisa, and then.
Yeah, can I make a comment? So talking about the grant writing. And I think the reason the grant writing was taken out this cycle is that we don't have right now the reserves to match or to pay. You got a grant, we got the grant for 100,000, but we don't have another 200,000 yet. So we're looking at maybe putting that grant writer on hold until we can kind of build up some reserves. And then as soon as we've got something in the pot, then we get that grant writer, and then they can go out and search. I mean, I don't think grants are going to go away in 3 years. I mean, they're going to shift.
They are definitely going to shift.
Yeah, but I think that the shift might be good.
Sustainability grants, and if we could, but hang on, especially because we're a climate smart community, if we, for example, the HVAC system, and, Steve, you're tracking all of our climate smart points and all of that, so.
It's the same thing, like the furnaces would allow us to get to the next level and possibly get some money from the state, and who knows how long that money is there.
On 2 different levels. One is through climate smart, when we get the points, we would get, I think the next level for us is 25,000.
20,000.
20,000, excuse me, 20,000. We already just got 5,000. We don't have to match that. So, that's the kind of stuff, we make the investment, we can get the rebates, which are actually going away in New York State over a few years, we know that. We get the rebate, and then we get the 25,000, which will cover a significant amount of, 20,000, which will cover a significant amount of costs, and we don't have to front the money. That's the kind of stuff that we're looking at, and this is fundamental, we need this stuff. I mean, it's not linear, it just isn't, yeah, Justin.
I agree with that. Grants are great, and I want to see us do more of that. I guess in addition to the point about reserves that Trustee Cove was making, I'm big on priorities driving the projects that we do. And my biggest reservation about getting a grant writer right now is that the availability of some funding that we might have an opportunity for right now drives the priorities rather than the adopted multi-year capital plans by the board. So if we're in a position, if we're like 6 months down the road and we've got these different adopted multi-year capital plans, I'm all for the expense for a grant writer.
To find what we've already put down.
I just don't want that to take priority over the planning.
I hear that. I think the need is so profound where we are right now. I mean, and just even the building we're sitting in. I mean, we could have another fire. We could have another fire because of the electrical components in this building. I mean, I can't even, I don't even know where to go with that, it's just.
The other concern I think Zach and I have is on the issues that were pulled out, like the HVAC, retaining wall, certain things. The concern we have is you adopt this and you say, you have the discussions, you're going to ban it or whatever. What if the board decides not to ban it? And next thing I know, I have no heat or I have no air. It's a real risk because, unfortunately, we've had to wait until now. We have air conditioners are going to go. We have a heating system that is like one wire away from stuff
They have
working.
space heaters at their desks.
So
because
it's a
the system is so
concern.
screwy.
It's really a concern for us because we have to function in the here and now, and losing that possibility, not that when it's in the budget, you're guaranteed because anything can happen, but at least when it's in the budget and you see it as a line, you get a better feeling that you're going to get it done.
This is going to come down to, I think, trust. And knowing that we're funding a bond of significant size, that we're now embedded the principal and interest payments into the budget. And the idea is over time, right, we know where we want to go. We know, at least for me, with this current budget, I'm very comfortable hiring Donegan Associates with the idea of creating a bond that then we have, depending on the size, we prioritize a bunch of projects embedded within.
Oh, Zach, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was just going
Yeah.
to, more of a process question, I guess. Can, for grants or state funds, can we use or pay off using debt? I'm not phrasing that correctly. Borrowing money to pay for a project if we were to have a grant.
Yes.
And then using that one and get reimbursed for it.
So just to go back, for example, the HVAC, that in this list, it says it's removed from the budget, but in fact, the debt service for it is in the budget. So it's a $50,000 item, right, that we're showing the debt service for. So that's something that is clearly going to be a priority. We have to go through the bidding process, and maybe there's funds available to the state. And what we're suggesting is that for big capital plans, we create this list. Now, maybe some of those things have to happen on the front end, right? Before we push forward with the final adoption of the long-term plan. But that would be the motion, like, pull it out of reserves for that, we understand, right? Or if we were to issue a large bond, the funds become available, how do we allocate them, right? What we're suggesting is the entirety of the bond is essentially going towards items that are going to be put in the reserves as part of the long-term capital plan. Now, maybe some items, how long do you think an HVAC unit is going to last?
Well, you do a combo system, like a heat pump system.
How long?
A new one? And how long will it last if we install a new system in the building?
I think, I believe the warranties are 10 and 20, depending on which
one?
Yeah.
And I'd want us to go for 20.
So specific
facility.
Specific to this particular line item, the 50,000, that was part of the 15-year. But if we felt uncomfortable with that and wanted debt shorter on 10 years or 5 years, we could figure out what the reserve cost would be to finance that sort of debt instead.
I just want the board to be aware, some things are hanging by a thread that were in that budget.
Totally.
And that's Zach and I, and I'm not trying to speak for you, but I think we're both in the same, we're on the same page. That's just what makes us nervous.
I mean, these things have been requested in the budget for years. And have never been addressed. That's really where we are. And so now it's like.
Yeah, none of this is new.
That one thing is new. So when you say, what's your priority? Hello?
The retaining law, I mean, prioritizing, sometimes you have to do that. And last year, I believe the wall did not make it onto the prioritized list.
Well, on the prior tentative budget, the principal and interest of the band or bond that's eventually issued for Southland Wood wasn't in that budget. So what we've done is we've put the principal and interest payments in that budget. Now, instead of paying cash for the HVAC, we've included that in the financing as well. So you're showing the cost of everything.
I get it on the big stuff, but I really agree with Dorothea on some of the smaller stuff.
What is the debt payment look
like radar signs? How long do they last?
It's, I can't really put it.
I mean, I don't know. They just seem like a smaller item. I believe, like the big stuff, I'm right there. Yeah, Justin, you had your hand up, didn't you?
Yeah, just to address some of the concerns that people have about changes that we're in dire need of, fixes. I think one of the first sessions, and this is really a starting point rather than an ending point because we're doing this planning. I think, to what you said, our first session should really be identifying those most critical needs so that we're doing the planning that encompass those things up front, right?
That's a workshop.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's a
yeah,
Exactly.
which that was intention.
And, to your point, Mayor, about some of the smaller items, I think that we can work on that too. I do want to get some prioritization done first, and it's not all going to be part of a loan, but I do want to do the prioritization and kind of work from that perspective.
I mean, we started that in January.
And I think on, so radar signs, for example, right? Do we want to prioritize that over improvements to Village Hall? Or in?
That's a board question.
Right,
You ask the residents around here.
Right, and that's process.
Just to let.
Right, and this is all I'm putting out there, is that prioritization has to occur.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think we have asked and answered.
Great.
I think everybody gets that. I don't think that's the issue at all here. But you had something you wanted to say.
We have a resident that would like to speak.
Yeah.
And I have comments. Gabriel Diaz is asking, will the members of the public be allowed to comment?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So I'm going to allow to talk. Mr. Diaz, you should be able to speak.
So yeah, I found out about this proposed change to the budget yesterday, and it's been a full work day. So during this meeting, I've been trying to look through this PDF to understand what the nitty-gritty details are. First, let me just start off by saying I really want to thank Justin and David for putting the effort it takes into making a concrete proposal. I know that takes a lot of time. I wish it had come sooner. Earlier meeting, David, you were saying that it's really important that we, the villagers, get the paperwork before a meeting, before the weekend, so we can prepare. We never got this until a day or two ago. And if I hadn't made a Facebook post about this earlier, many villagers would have no idea that you guys were making this proposal tonight. You gave, Justin, thank you for taking the time to make a nice, coherent kind of breakdown at the high level of what you're trying to do today on Facebook in response to my post. Unfortunately, that's really high level. And the devil's in the details when it comes to a budget. And I'm learning in real time in this meeting all the little things you guys are trying to take out of the budget in order to do what I think is some like well-intentioned good things about long-term planning. But listen, grant writing, I'm like incredibly in favor of grant writing, and I'm really opposed to the idea of taking that out. And what's more worrying is I didn't know you were taking it out until just now, because we the villagers were not given an opportunity to look this over until a day or two ago. The true budget, the tentative budget's already been approved, first went up before the villagers in the end of March. To give you some context for the amount of time, it typically, there have been 5 or 6 public meetings that were noticed that villagers had a chance to speak at. And David, I don't think I ever heard you speak at one to voice these, to put forward these concrete plans for how to change the budget. And Justin, I don't think you ever put forward concrete plans for how to change a budget until a day or two ago. So I applaud those efforts. I really do. I think that's great. And you guys are bringing good ideas to the table, but they just came too late, and you're really doing a disservice. You guys ran, David, you and Lisa ran on a platform of transparency, and this is not in that spirit. I really think that this is a good idea, but you guys should pick it up again next year, because from what I understand, we need to vote on the budget really soon. The tentative budget's been approved. We don't have a long time to go. If you want another many hour-long meetings where you can explain this to villagers to the point where, people like me feel like we really understand what you're sacrificing, despite the large increase in taxes, right? I've got to point that out too. It's pretty alarming. Then, okay, great, but I don't think we have that time. So I really, I want to both compliment you on putting the time in and say that I want more of that, like concrete actions, but the timing of this is just not really kind to the villagers. So I'm going to ask you, please vote against this. I want you to take it off the table, because it's not appropriate to put forward such sweeping large changes to the budget at the last minute when we have to get a budget to the state, I believe in early May. right? You can correct me if I'm wrong there, but we don't have a lot of time to talk about this from what I understand.
First, yeah.
So thank you very much for listening. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thanks for your comments. Yeah, just for anybody listening, that we're required to have the budget adopted by May 1st.
Correct.
Yeah. And this is our last meeting, and it's going to be May. So, it's here we are.
It is.
Here
we are.
And
any delay I contributed to getting this out, it was timing trying to get everything together.
And a big thanks also to our treasurer, Dorothea, for really stepping up and working with you guys, really trying to turn this around. You have spent hours, weekends, nights, mornings, afternoons.
Thank you, Dorothea.
It's been nonstop for you, really, literally.
I just want a plan that works for all. Whatever budget the board approves, we will go through.
I mean, why couldn't we adopt the tentative budget and keep moving this forward? Why can't we do that? I mean, I think, and hold these workshops and really shape this and the long-term planning. And, I think that's great. Because the villagers have seen the tentative budget that's been adopted, and I hear what Gabe is saying, as well. This is kind of 11th hour. I don't know. I mean, I'm throwing that out there, just throwing it out to the group here. Yeah, Justin.
I thought that the process, as I've mentioned before, I voted against the last couple of budgets. I feel like they were really deficient in terms of overall planning. The board still does not have any adopted multi-year capital plans. We're putting out fires, and I think we're going to keep on putting out fires. The adopted tentative budget to me is unacceptable for several reasons. The appropriations to the sewer fund, and I believe having some capital items in there which the board has not had an opportunity to prioritize. To me, it's just not a tenable direction. And so therefore, I'll make a motion to amend the tentative budget to the one proposed in the packet today with a tax rate of $5.05 per thousand.
I'll second that.
Are there any additional comments online or any comments from the audience?
Tina Keller.
And do we have anybody else online? Yeah, I don't know, I'm torn. I mean, I like these ideas, but I just think we can keep moving forward with all this. I don't see this as like the end game, the end. I think, as you said earlier, you said the words, this is the beginning of how we move forward. I am all in on that. Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
Trustee Coe.
Yes.
Trustee Marshall?
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
No.
Motion passes.
Okay.
I'd like to follow that then with the next motion as suggested by our clerk treasurer to adopt the final budget.
Second.
Trustee Lightgev?
Aye.
Trustee Marshall?
Aye.
Trustee Coe?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Stop voting.
Okay. Motion passes.
And should we as well make a motion to instruct or request, do we need a motion, Jeff, for you to work with Dorothea on the language for the reserves specific that's embedded in this budget, or do we worry about that later?
We're already
in
the process.
There's
going to be changes.
Well, the changes is to the reserves. If you're looking for the debt reserve, then we need to be instructed to work on looking at a debt reserve.
So I need clear direction from this board about what reserves we are going to create.
Why don't I bring the reserves back to the board?
Yeah, let's do that.
And let's go over the ones we're requesting and have that be reiterated.
And very uncomfortable trying to figure out
Yeah.
create something, because then I'm doing the legislative work, and I don't like that feeling.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm not.
Going with that, yeah.
Can I also, going beyond that a little bit, I think it is really important to talk about some of these critical issues in Village Hall. To me, it sounds like maybe that's where we start based on some of the concerns that I'm hearing. Don't want to diminish anything elsewhere in the village, but perhaps on the next agenda too, we prioritize looking through some of those items
Oh, yeah.
to make the first pass at our plan there so we can move forward. Does that sound?
That sounds great to me. In addition, the infrastructure reserve for Southern Wood. So what we've just adopted is essentially the payments for what we know we're going to need to get done. So it would, and we can ban that. So it'd be great to have some, that information as well.
Can I talk to Ernie Donegan now?
Yeah, so I'll make a motion I'll make a motion
Yep.
to accept Donegan Associates bid for municipal financial services.
Okay, and at the same time, can we reach out to the GPI?
Let's just.
Let's do this one first.
No,
I'll
can we
second.
get this one done?
Right.
Just hang on.
I'll second that.
Stand down.
We got
Trustee
we got a
Coe.
second. Yes.
Trustee
Aye.
Lickett.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Right.
What's GPI, what's going on?
So GPI are the engineers that are doing the Woodson and
Southern
Southwood
Wood.
project, so their work is gonna be a tandem thing along with Donegan. So the reason for hiring Donegan is because of GPI.
Right,
We
they
need to let GPI know what our intentions are, so they're not just
hanging.
hanging.
Yeah, so the action item, what are we looking for
Yeah.
from them? What are they?
We need to
doing?
hire them as the engineer for the project.
So in
And
terms of
we have
capital,
reviewed their bid,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
they can't, and they were the only one who responded.
Yeah.
Remember, we bid it several times, we bid it, you know.
Very qualified people on their team.
Yeah, they-
Includes the sidewalk.
I'm sorry?
That includes sidewalk.
Yeah, and the sidewalks,
Specifically curb roads.
right, yeah, and the sidewalks, we have a $100,000 grant that will offset some of the sidewalk.
What's since we don't, I don't think that's a part of the packet for tonight, and I don't recall the amount.
It was,
93 total for Southwood and Southern.
and I think they,
93,000 total for those.
Yeah.
Can we do that before we discuss the bonding or the banding, or is that part of that to make sure that, because I think that is not part of the budget then?
So the 93, was that included in the 750? Because
Yeah.
the 750, right. So the item that was just funded was 750,000, which was essentially the total cost less what we thought we might get from the state, which included the cost of the engineering work. So knowing that we're moving this project forward, we've just financed the principal and interest, and we have a bid that's outstanding, I'd be okay moving this forward to get that work done, because we know we're going to get the work done.
Okay.
The bill for that, how long, and we have a while to cover that bill, right?
There's many preliminary discussions that we're going to be.
yeah, it's good, it's just getting,
Not immediate.
it's
Yeah, right.
just getting the contract signed and saying,
Yeah.
because they're waiting.
I would make a motion to accept the bid.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Marshall?
Aye.
Trustee Coe?
Aye.
Trustee Lickett?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you. Progress.
Nice
Okay.
Do we, staying on budget for a minute, do we have HVAC quotes?
Yeah, we have.
We
some.
have the quotes.
Okay.
Yeah, we have the quotes.
But we probably have to revisit those quotes.
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
We would have to-
We're going to have to.
We have to put it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because of the dollar amount.
Because of the
It'll have
dollar,
to go out.
I know,
We've been sitting on it for.
I know. It's,
Well, I think possibly by prioritizing things in Village Hall at the next meeting, if we look at that initial list.
yeah.
Yes.
We'll be able to.
We'll see
make some-
what.
And you know
quotes I
what,
can
we
get.
should probably even give, well, that's a huge report. Maybe you guys can come. Is that the report that was done 20 years ago identifying, because at least gives everybody.
Let me see if I can get it digitized and.
I know, maybe we can just do that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just so
it'd
you
be-
see, because this is really,
Yeah, it'd behoove everybody. to
yeah,
see
it
that.
would give you the starting point.
Yeah. So next agenda, infrastructure for Village Hall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And anybody who might have some of those long-term capital projects already in place, and if you want to share them around, it'd be great for us to
You have all
all see.
the.
'Cause We're gonna have to start.
It's all on the network as well. I don't know how you can get access
I'll have to.
to it. We can sort that out.
She'll sort it, yeah.
Great.
Thank
She'll
you.
sort it, yeah, yeah. Okay, next up, we have our annual organization, don't we? What
No,
else do we have?
we still have the resolution, appointed board members.
Oh, I'm sorry, I dropped down, I looked too far down the list. Yep, okay, the resolution.
Yeah, I had added that, and what my goal was, so this is essentially, this is my best understanding of what the town does for board appointments. And I understand that there are differences between town and village law. I don't know if this is something in this form that is directly applicable to the village. But my goal is to make sure that we regularly and thoroughly advertise new positions, facilitate discussions between all of the applicants for those positions and the chair of the board for which they're intended, as well as perhaps the trustee liaison to that board, so that we can ensure that we're being thorough and fair and transparent with the applicant pool and vote accordingly. But basically, it's to bring it to this board for discussion. Any other thoughts?
It's my battery died, that's why I said.
Common problems, right?
Yes. Danger of long meetings.
I agree with you, Justin. I think that there really needs to be more transparency in how we fill board slots. I really think that the board should know who has applied for positions, who has been interviewed, who interviewed them, and I think there should be a little bit more action as far as chairs involved, board chairs, as well as another trustee and the mayor, so that we can make sure that the people that we're placing on these boards that are so very crucial to upholding our standards here in the village, the board's filled appropriately. So I agree with you on that. I think there just needs to be a little bit more involvement in that.
Okay, what are your comments?
I guess I'd like a number 8 that says a CV or a resume is provided and distributed to.
They are.
Yeah, they are.
They are.
In here? Well, in the resolution. Is
No, they already are.
I'm just saying.
Oh, for the resolution.
Within the resolution.
Oh, because that's a matter of course.
Yeah, right. It's already a matter of course, so why not just throw it in there?
Provided to who, Dave?
I guess the board in advance of appointment voting. I mean, this goes back 6-8 years, at least since I've been participating in public meetings, the concern whether or not it was just structurally, I think as a board who approves the appointments, it's good to have this material available. And it's nice to be at a point where we can actually request it.
Okay. I'd like our attorney to weigh in on this particular resolution. And
in my opinion, it's contrary to village law. Anything that infringes on the mayor's power of appointment is probably a nullity.
It's probably, I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
A nullity.
A nullity. Can you describe what a nullity is? Oh, okay.
Certainly the board is entitled to vet those appointments, but the board is not entitled to interfere in any way with the appointment process, in my judgment.
Well, and interfere in the, I mean, I agree that the mayor will have ultimate say in who she decides to hire. I just think that we all, including all village residents, need to see the process that happens before she makes her decision. And I just think that that's what all village residents.
I don't think that, I'm sorry, interrupted you.
No. Oh, that's good. So I'm just saying, I agree that obviously the mayor, and that's what it says in our code, the mayor has the right to appoint anybody she wants. But I think that there should be more involvement in that with people to kind of understand where the mayor's coming from when she appoints different people to the board. That's all. It's just an understanding, it's just a transparency.
Again, I think that's an infringement on the mayor's power of appointment. You don't have to approve, right?
Yeah, that's your power.
So
that's your authority.
You know, if she wants an approval, it's probable that she will share her thinking and thoughts with you. But to get involved in the process of how she gets to the appointment, I think is an infringement.
And you don't think it's a right for the village residents and for the trustees who are eventually going to vote on this, right?
But she's been elected to do this.
Right, but we're also asked to vote on this, and we need to know, where she's coming from as far as appointing certain people.
Well, you certainly can always talk to me. And I've also made my points clear publicly about how I feel about boards and appointments and voices in our village being heard. Yes, Justin.
Yeah, I'd like to understand this just in the context of ensuring that all board members are informed about the qualifications of all available candidates. To me, it does not infringe whatsoever in the mayor's power to appoint. This is something that's additive, and essentially most of these things are already available through FOIL if we had to go through that process. We can request these things from Village Hall. It's really about just ensuring that there is broad information provided to board members. So I guess.
I'm not sure that you can.
Yeah, I defer to Jeff if you could speak to that.
I don't think that's a matter of public record or a matter that the public's entitled to know.
So
selection process.
Which, if you could.
Getting into personnel matters, I don't.
That's not personnel. We're not talking about staff. We're talking about board.
I'd like to get some more clarity, which.
Okay, so let's just take a look at this. So, I get resumes, people say, gee, I want to serve on a board, I go through it and, make decisions, or, it's I guess a power that's invested in me as the mayor who's been elected. So I sort through it and I say, this I think is the top candidate. And so to what end is it to just say, we need to see every single resume that's ever come in, when it's just a power that I have, anybody who would be mayor in a municipality in New York State comes up with the selection that they feel best. And if you want, you see the resume, I say, this is why I would like this person on the board. And then you have the power to approve or not. I mean, where are we going with foiling? And I don't understand to what end, to what purpose does this serve? Some people I may not look at this time around and say, hey, but they might be good the next time. There's always people in a pipeline. We have 1,100 residents in our village. We have many voices, many different backgrounds. And my belief is that we should vary people on the board, rotate people around as best we can, to have those voices heard, because people want to serve and they get, they step up. And the qualifications, we can all take a look at all the different backgrounds we even have at this table. And, we get the training, we step up, we learn to serve. You didn't go on the HPB going, oh, I know every single thing about the code. You learned, you stepped up and served our community. And you did the same with the Planning and Zoning Board. You weren't trained in planning and zoning, but you're a voice in our community that said, I want to learn, I want to serve. So that's my point of view. And I can't believe that, we're even having this kind of discussion. I find it practically, in practical terms, kind of wasteful. If you want to know what I think, come and ask me. You want to have this resolution about this? We can talk through that. I talked to the board members about it. I have with the other appointments, and some members wouldn't meet with me. They refused to do so for whatever their reasons were, and others were very happy to talk with me. Yes.
Let me just make something clear if I can. I don't, it's not my business to really care about how decisions are made. My focus is entirely on the law. Mm-hmm. In my reading of village law, the rights of the mayor, the rights of the board, how you fill positions, anything that interferes or involves the board in the mayor's power of appointment is probably not according to law. Now, while she has the power of appointment, this board has an absolute veto power over accepting the appointee. So that's the balance that I think the village law is trying to set up. I mean, that's all we can talk about it all night.
That's how I've always learned it.
But that's my perception of village law.
I appreciate that clarification. I guess I'm quite surprised that and you very well might be right. I guess I'm just surprised to hear that from what you're saying, it sounds like the mayoral power to appoint also includes the mayoral power to make secret all of the applicants to the volunteer or appointed boards. And for me, I believe that as a board member who's voting on these, that piece of information is in no way restricted to the board members. And I would just like to make sure it's distributed.
Well, so let me just clarify. Let me clarify. I don't think there's any inferred power of secrecy. I think the power is to make the decision of appointment as she sees fit. So if that involves going out and talking to people, looking at resumes, that, I believe, is entirely her business. And if she wants to get an appointee approved, then it would behoove her to share that information, but that's entirely up to her, in my judgment.
Okay, so I'm willing to, I still have a legal question then, and perhaps this is one that we can clarify with NICOM. I would like to clarify if the board should have access or should be able to obtain access to the list of all applicants, because I truly feel that's relevant to our decision about which ones are chosen from the pool of applicants. I don't see that as being protected for any reason. I would just like to have access to it.
I'm not sure it's protected. I'm not sure it's part of her decision-making process. And I don't know that that is foilable. I don't know that she is required to share it with the board. Certainly, we can and should contact NICOM to confirm that.
So why don't we make that an action item for you to, can you follow up on that?
Well, sure.
Okay, does that make sense that he follows up and
I'll
talks to them?
I'll send you the email I sent
Okay.
to, or perhaps trustee Lightgift, you can send me what your question is.
Sure.
I'll send it and I'll copy the whole board with what I've sent to NICOM. It'll be a way to go from, and I'll give you a copy of his response.
Just a comment to that, should it be that this is null as a result of interfering with the power of appointment, one could still make a motion where instead of having it say the word policy, you could have it say the word request. So therefore be it resolved that the board adopts the following request regarding appointed board appointments.
Why don't we talk to NICOM about that?
Well, yeah, you made the request, but you've got embedded in the request,
Certain things.
specific requirements about how it's going to happen.
But it would be the request, and whether or not she fulfills the request would be another matter. And then the board could determine if they felt that items 1 through 7 or 1 through 8, if there's another item, if they've been fulfilled sufficiently for them to warrant an approval of the appointment.
The board can adopt a policy, whatever policy it wants, whether or not it impacts mayoral power is another question.
Okay. I would suggest that we could make a motion to adopt this as a request, not as a policy, and then pursue at a later stage the determination if it can be policy or not.
I think you should do the homework first before you start making motions. I just think that's prudent in terms of how you would move forward. I agree, you said talk to NICOM. I think that's probably not a bad idea. Let's see.
I'm okay with that. I appreciate the discussion. This is nothing personal. This is just, I appreciate having the discussion here because I think that this is, it would have taken about 100 emails otherwise. So I think that exploring where our different understanding of the law comes up gives rise to the next step. So thank you very much.
Okay, so that's the action item?
Trustee Lightgift, you're going to send something to me?
Yes, I will. I'll follow up tomorrow with the question that I had about the access to information.
Okay. So next up, the annual organization.
Yep.
Now we're ready for that.
Here we go.
Okay, you're going to
want to use the one on the table.
Shoot.
You use the one on the table.
There's one that's on the
From my packet.
I got it. You got that, okay. Okay, so we're going to do line item.
Not my gig.
Okay. And help us get the cadence going, will you?
Sure.
Okay. So first up is I'm appointing.
But before we say, can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
Is there a way of telling me how long each of these people have been in this position? Like, have these people been doing this for 10 years? Is there somebody who's
No,
just
not
brand new?
without prior request. I
Okay.
can't tell you that right off the top of my head. These positions have been vetted and used for several years, different ones.
Can you tell me, is there anybody who's newer than 1 or 2 years?
No.
You can't tell me.
They're all long-term.
They're long-term associations. No, I can't tell you any.
Yeah, they know the village, they work with us,
No one
they're
brand
solid.
That's what I meant, there's
All
no
right,
one brand.
Yeah.
Got it.
That I can.
Okay.
No family members or,
Unless there's some relation I do not know.
sorry, it's late.
Okay, yeah, it's late, let's get going here. Okay, so I am appointing trustee Lily Landfair as deputy mayor for the 2023-2024 fiscal year.
That requires no board vote.
Yeah, I'm just making transparent my appointment. And if you'd like to
And we
see,
know her.
and if you'd like to see her resume, we can get that for you.
We know her. She's proven herself.
All righty. So let's see, how do we, okay, regarding appointments and specialized services, I will entertain a motion to appoint Mengel Metzer Bar and Company CPA PC for a one-year term ending in 2024. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second? Ooh, you're tied.
Dave and I were right on the roll.
Okay.
This is a board appointment, not a mayoral appointment, right?
No, it's a mayoral appointment.
He's about
So
to
Get to approve. In other words,
No, it's
yeah.
a board, he's correct, it's a board appointment, it's not a public, it's not an office.
Oh, that's for this, for the
Yeah, okay.
services. Okay, I thought you meant Lily.
Yeah, I was just
Okay.
making sure that it wasn't
Okay.
your motion, but anybody's motion.
No, that's why I'll entertain the motion,
Great.
because usually I like you guys to make them. Okay, so roll call.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to appoint Scott Harder as village engineer for a one-year term ending in 2024.
So moved.
Okay, roll call.
Second.
Oh, we need a second.
Dave, second.
Oh, sorry, I'm
You're
out of the game.
wanting to get out of here.
I know.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I'll entertain a motion to appoint Stephen Robson as village assessor for a one-year term ending in 2024.
So moved.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Entertain a motion to appoint Gary Wilkins as village insurance agent for a one-year term ending in 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Entertain a motion to appoint Bernard Donigan, Inc. as financial advisors for a one-year term ending in 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion
That's good,
passes.
because we just gave him a job to
Just
do.
contract.
I know. Okay, motion to appoint Maria Murillo as the historic preservation consultant for a one-year term ending 2024 for a non-75 Monroe Avenue matter, any matters.
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye. Okay, motion to appoint Jeffrey Turner as the village board attorney at a rate set per retainer agreement for a one-year term ending in 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Trustee Marshall.
Nay.
Trustee Coe.
Yes.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, motion to appoint Jeffrey Turner as the historic preservation board attorney at a rate set per retainer agreement for a one-year term ending in 2024.
Can I have a question in between this? Yes?
Okay.
Can Jeffrey, Jeff, can you be on both? I mean, I know you have been, but you're allowed to be on
Yeah.
both the trustee and the preservation?
You should have all boards.
Yeah.
Okay, because I thought that was the ethic board and the trustee.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so
I'm sorry about that.
do we have a motion?
motion?
Okay, motion, please.
So moved.
Okay, second. I seconded. I just did it.
Okay.
Normally I
Trustee
wouldn't.
Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Nay.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, motion to appoint as planning board and zoning board of appeals attorney Mindy L. Zoglin, Esquire, Zoglin Group, PLLC, at a set rate per retainer agreement for a one-year term ending in 2024.
An authorization for the mayor to sign the retainer agreement as well.
Oh, that's right, I have to sign it, yeah.
So moved.
Okay, second.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, a motion to appoint Timothy R. McGill as municipal bond attorney for a one-year term ending in 2024.
Moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Trustee Marshall.
Abstain.
Trustee Coe.
Yes.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, motion, oh God, a motion to appoint Hodgson Russ as special counsel for 75 Monroe Avenue at a rate set per retainer agreement for a one-year term ending in 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Abstain.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, motion to appoint Jeffrey Turner as the village labor attorney at a rate of $165 per hour for a one-year term ending in 2024.
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Trustee Coe.
Abstain.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, we're going to skip over the ethics board. There are board members, actually the previous entire board is part of a case, and so we still have members of our board that are involved in that. So we will skip that this evening and move to the Historic Preservation Board. Motion to appoint Jeff Pollack as chairman of the Historic Preservation Board for a one-year term ending in 2024. Is there a second? Anybody? Okay, I guess the motion fails.
Dies. Doesn't fail, it dies.
It dies. Motion dies is the term. Okay. Okay, motion to appoint Bill McBride as Historic Preservation Board member for a 3-year term ending in 2026. Okay. That's all thought out, so that dies. Okay. Motion to appoint Jeff Pollack as the Historic Preservation Board member for a 3-year term ending in 2026. Okay. Good to know. And a motion to appoint Kendra Evans as Historic Preservation Board member for a 3-year term ending in 2026. Okay, so that's all dead. Moving on, the Planning and Zoning Board of Appeals. Motion to appoint Kathleen Hoppen as chairman to the Planning Board and Zoning Board of Appeals for a 1-year term ending in 2024. Okay, see where this is going, so that's died, okay. And moving along, we have wage compensation for 2023, 2024. Is there a motion to approve the wage compensation schedule for 2023, 2024?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call. Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay. So we skip, let's see, where are we going now?
Liaison.
Hang on, where are we here? Okay, liaison position.
We have a blank.
Yeah, that's true. Where are we? That's what was on the sheet here.
DPW.
Yeah, DPW, thank you. Yeah, that's an open slot. Is there anybody who would like to step up and be a liaison with me for DPW?
Let me just ask a question about that one. Trustee Cove, you expressed some interest in doing the chamber liaison position to me. I would have trouble being at the meetings for both of those, for the PZBA as well as the chamber. It's just a lot of extra commitments. So I would be willing to take on the DPW and cede the chamber to Trustee Cove, if that would be amenable to other members here. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, we'll be joint liaisons. I'm always liaison
Sure.
to DPW.
Yeah,
that's how it works. We meet every single week. You'd be able to make the weekly meetings then. the DPW, I mean, with your schedule and everything.
Yeah, I'd just like to,
You know.
when are those held, generally?
We meet every Wednesday at 10:30.
Like 10:30.
Why don't we hold that open and you can figure out your schedule? Should we do that?
Either way.
Yeah, it sounds like you're pretty busy.
And I would very much like to take over that spot where Justin is, as I've started working with village merchants already, and it's a real passion of mine to try to get them support and to be a liaison to this chamber as well.
Okay, so is that
Tell
amenable
you
to
what,
you?
I'll do
I mean, what do you-
I believe that I can do the 10:30 meetings.
Okay, so we're going to put you down for that. Okay. Well, isn't that working out? All right, great. And let's see, so the chamber, we're going to, you've got the switch then?
Yep.
You have a notation on that?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the liaison positions as amended for 2023, 2024?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Aye. Okay, Dave, you got it.
Yeah.
Okay, roll call?
Trustee Marshall?
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev?
Aye.
Trustee Coe?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay.
Hold on.
Oh, this is, we have to put in the,
Yeah. I didn't have the numbers.
Right, yeah.
Availability.
that's right, because, yeah, the stuff is highlighted, we have to catch up on.
Okay, just so I can just say it so everybody understands, the tax rate for the year will be $5.05. The sewer rent will go to, make this print any tinier for myself, $34.25 for the first 4,000 gallons, $3.76 for each 1,000 gallons after. For Wood Creek, it would be $7.68 per 1,000 gallons.
So make a motion.
And that's
I'm
also
not gonna
the
repeat
fiscal
that.
year.
Yeah, right.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, and we also now have an amendment, I guess, to official meetings.
Yep.
So it would be on the Tuesday instead of Thursday
At 5:30.
at 5:30. And, oops, the Travis, I told her, okay.
That's it.
That's it?
That's all I got for that section. I just need you guys to vote.
Okay, is there a motion?
Second.
Roll call.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Not voting. Okay, hiring process, employee training, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
I second.
Okay, roll call.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, there's a motion to approve the official newspaper and bank for 2023, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the bond and check signatures for 2023, 2024?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, the hours of operation floating holiday, motion to approve the hours of operation of the floating holiday for 2023, 2024.
So moved.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, the fee schedules, is there a motion to approve the fee schedules, excuse me, for 2023, 2024?
We talk about this for a second?
Sure, of course.
So one of the things that I came across as I'm looking at this, and this is, I've seen it in prior years. I don't know how much each of these may have gone up or if there's any inflation in these at all, but this is, a revenue source. I don't want to squeeze people for wanting to put in a new door or a window, but could somebody comment on where these rates are today versus where they've been 5 years ago or 10 years ago?
They're reevaluated every year. I hand them over to Steve, and he's dying to speak. But just for the board's thing, I highlight anything that's changed over the previous year. So anything you see highlighted was changed in this year's budget.
This village was low comparatively to other municipalities when I came in. I researched many municipalities and brought us up to the level of pretty much everybody else in the county. And there's a few little things we increased this year, but we are right in line with most of the other municipalities in the county.
Okay. So then my next question has a little bit to do with properties and new construction and some of the approval processes there, specifically the rental property permit apartment building townhouses where it's $350 or $25 a unit.
We do not have a law on the books to charge or do rental registration or charge fee.
We don't have anything. So we have a rate, but it never gets charged.
We established the rate, so when we do the legislation, we're good to go.
Or it has to establish a law in order to me to be able to charge people a rental registration fee and a yearly inspection fee.
Okay, so the yearly inspection fee is currently not here, or we don't have a law that.
We don't do it.
We don't do it. But we do have a rate for it.
Right.
We're preparing.
It's been recommended to the board.
Okay. My next question is, this has to do with the rental property permit apartment buildings, houses that we don't have a law for, but if we have a 2-family or a 3-family, right, we're charging $175 per year or $250 per year, which let's take the 2-family rate and just round up a little bit for simplicity, 180. So that's $90 per unit. On a 2-family home, we're charging $175. We're giving a discount to people who have more. So for example, in the rental property permit apartment buildings / townhouses, we're saying $350 or $25 a unit. So you're actually having, the more units you have, the less you get charged for the apartment, which is in fact giving them an advantage on a cost perspective versus a 2-family or a 1-family.
Well, it's not an advantage, it's kind of like a multi-policy discount. If you have one item, typically anybody, if you do one thing, you charge a rate. You do 2, each one gets a little less because you're doing 2 at once.
Right, which again, fundamentally, I tend to have a challenge with. I mean, it's the reason why we overpay for UPS, because Amazon has a rate that's actually a loss leader for UPS, and then we pay the premium.
Okay, so where do we want to go with this?
So what I'm suggesting is if we could increase the rental property permit apartment buildings / townhouses to $100 per unit, which is roughly in line with the rental property for a 2-family. Even though we don't have a law, if we're preparing in advance, I'd rather have the rate be identical to a mom and pop who has an apartment and they're not getting a deal because they have more apartments versus less. It's the same rough rate. But we don't have a law in the books, so it shouldn't be a big challenge.
Are we planning on getting a law in the books?
We've been requesting to get a law.
That's not up to me.
No, that's up to the board.
That's the board, all right, so then that
I brought
must.
this up years
For
ago,
legislative.
and it's just never been added on or worked on.
And isn't that revenue that we're losing? Significant revenue that we're losing, like lots? I mean, that's a lot of revenue we're losing.
So my preference would be move to $100 a unit, which is roughly in line with the 2-family and 3-family rental. We could go lower at 75, but I think 100 is fair.
I say 100.
It's the same as the rental property permit rent annual inspection.
Just a procedural question. I have not had time to think about this.
Yeah, I feel.
I'm just wondering,
You can always come back and amend the.
That's what I'm wondering. I like the idea, I just.
Nothing
Can we
ever.
just get more, yeah, more
Past 10 and
info?
vibrate.
It can be
Yeah.
a moving
These
target.
guys are going to be modified at any board meeting.
Okay.
And
so I'll
we
make a
don't like
motion
it yet
to-
anyways.
So we can approve it and then just do
I'll make a
this.
motion to adopt it as identified, with the idea that we should come back.
Yes.
And, you know, just before we do this, why don't, we could even put it on the agenda, you know, so we have them, well, just so we have more information.
Well,
you know,
why don't we get the law? Really, we say to the board, can we have the law?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but,
let's
you
get
know,
the
get it
law.
going, but just to get it going, that's what I'm saying.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Marshall?
Aye.
Trustee Coe?
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, where am I now?
Parking fee schedule,
Oh, gee.
Let me turn pages here, say.
Hang on,
page 10.
thank you, she's prompting
Before we
us.
move into that, does anybody know how many of the parking fees are applied to village residents versus visitors?
It's pretty
Oh.
random.
Boy, yeah.
Yeah, we
I didn't
had one
know that.
paying her bill today, and she was airport.
And how many do we get in a year?
I couldn't tell you that. We get quite a few.
10, 100?
How about if
No,
we,
no,
how about,
we
can we
get
get back to you on this,
Sure.
because it's
Yeah,
after
I can
10
give
o'clock
you-
at
get back
night,
to you.
and,
Curious.
you know, no,
No, we
I
get
I
quite a
think it's
bit.
all good information, but I think, you know, I'd like,
Sure.
yeah,
No, we get quite a bit.
Yeah.
I'll let you know.
yeah, we can fill you in,
All right.
you know, that can be sort of an offline.
Motion to approve.
Okay, there's a motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
Okay,
Okay, trustee Coe?
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev?
Aye.
Trustee Marshall?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, so now we're at the resolutions.
Yep.
Oh,
Resolutions in this part are mileage, attendance to schools, special meetings, licensing of colors,
Yeah.
garbage colors, electrical
I have a
inspector.
question about that. Isn't it something that they can write off on their taxes? I mean, mileage?
No, we can't.
No.
Can't?
Right on.
no,
We reimburse.
you're a direct reimbursement.
Yeah. Good work.
Any changes from prior years?
No, it's exactly the same.
I'll make a motion to accept the resolutions as presented.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Coe?
Aye.
Trustee Marshall?
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, what's the next page here, where are we?
Procurement.
Procurement
Oh, my
and
gosh,
building use
okay.
policy.
You're at it.
Okay, we're heading into procurement and building use policy. Is there a motion to adopt the procurement and building use policy for 2023, 2024?
This is also amendable, should we choose to ever do so, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
All right. Motion to approve.
Second.
Trustee Marshall?
Aye.
Trustee Coe?
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer? Motion passes. And that's it, folks.
Oh, wow.
Man, that was a switch.
We did the procurement of professional services
Okay, are there-
and the building use.
It's all part of it.
Okay,
There's
there's,
procurement.
Oh, okay.
okay, moving along, we have the treasurer's report.
Correct.
Let me just readjust which
I
packets
know.
here.
Are you laughing at me? Go
We're
away.
almost there, we're almost there.
Okay, we have the bill pay.
I
Is there
just
any
need,
question?
I just need a couple of seconds to get the PDF open again.
How about I entertain you with the New York State dividend? We received our dividend payment that I predicted. It was around a little over $10,000, so that's all good.
Yeah, from the good news department.
Close?
I'm sorry?
Are you there?
You there?
Yeah, I'm-
Okay,
Okay, so back to the bill
Thank
pay.
you for the entertainment.
I try. That's all I got. Any questions on the treasurer's report?
I don't have any.
Is there nothing in the public packet? It was only in our individual.
It isn't shared with the public.
Yeah, this is internal administrative. so.
We share the amount, we don't share the
Yeah.
internal.
Okay,
We don't give out our vendor.
get in there.
Is there a motion to approve as presented?
The bill pay first, the supreme amount?
Yep, bill pay.
Motion to approve the bill pay as presented.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Marshall?
Abstain?
Trustee Lightgev?
Aye.
Trustee Coe?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Aye.
Motion passes.
I'll just identify my abstain there. There was a question I had, but it
Oh,
was moving forward and I didn't get there in time, so
Oh, I'm sorry.
it wasn't for any reason other than that.
oh, okay, but also, you know, typically with bill pay when they go out, it really is helpful if you see questions, just call in the office ahead of time and they can sort it out for you. You know, that way you're ready to go.
And procedurally too, after there's a second, we can always stop for discussion. So
that, we always can do that on anything,
Yeah.
absolutely, so don't hesitate.
So this is after the fact, but I'll just ask the question. The PGA Town of Pittsford Family Night, we're basically supporting the PGA Family Night and.
Correct. The board agreed to help sponsor that event, so that was the cost of that sponsorship.
With the town.
Yes.
Yep, it's a joint event that we're doing with the
I
town.
can't change my vote, but still an abstain, but I'm good with it.
Okay, well,
Okay.
thanks. I'm still good with you abstaining. The March financial report, any quick questions? We did have a few negatives. They're small, but, unfortunately, not always obtainable. The big ones were in the utilities. We were looking really good, and then it hit.
Yep.
Thank you, winter.
Yeah.
I gave you the analysis of the fund balance. As I said, I wish we were at year end. We'd be up quite substantially, but we still have a month to go. I'm kind of told Zach, we're kind of on a spending halt if we can, unless it's really necessary. We like to end on a good note this year. Sewer's looking great. As always, there is a few negatives I had in sewer. I think that's actually one of the first times it's had a negative this year. So I just need approval to accept the financials as presented.
I'll make a motion to accept the March financials as presented.
I second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes. And then I unfortunately have budget transfers, and some of these are a little more trying to foresee, trying to find the right words. I've run out of them at this hour. So if I can have approval for the general and sewer budget transfers, that would be appreciated.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second, please?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes. And the last, I need authorization to go ahead and sign the agreement with U-Audit. The reason we want to do this is we don't trust our utility companies. And to be honest, it is a fair question. We have this done at least every 5 years. Last time we did it, we received a check for $117,000, so it's always worth trying to go out and find lost money.
Yeah, and this was brought before the board.
Yeah, it's a
Love it.
good
I think it's
thing.
before you guys were on the board, but it's a good thing to do. They get a percentage, but we don't have the time to chase it down.
No, and we
So it's
can't
one-
do the
it's
math
good.
on these.
Yeah,
That's
it's
a-
so arcane. It's
I'm sorry, I
crazy.
can't do it.
Yeah.
So if I can have approval to go ahead and sign this and get this going.
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay.
Okay, we went over the other, we have a bunch of minutes. I know the board requested that these be tabled to the next meeting. Some of these might not be approvable because of the board members that were involved. So I'm just going to inform the board, unless any of the existing board members see any large problems, I'm going to go ahead and approve them myself and put them on the website. That is my prerogative.
Yeah, she has the legal authority.
That's
to do
fine
so.
with me.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Yeah, I'm just going to review. If anything can be approved, I'll bring it back.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
And there's some final words if you'd like to ask for them, because I'm done.
Oh, member items?
Oh,
What?
yeah, I forgot about those.
Anybody have a member item?
I have no member items.
No.
I sure as heck don't. Okay, I make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
Roll call, trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer. Motion passes. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Everybody.
Great work, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.